Chapter 1. The Monster King. 6 months after Alara Voss disappeared, Damon Vale bought the prison where her father had tried to die. Not the company that serviced it, not the debt behind it. The prison, Blackwell Correctional, became Vale Rehabilitation Holdings at 9:03 on a Monday morning. After a silent acquisition that made 3 governors call, 2 senators curse on unsecured lines, and a private equity board discover what happened when Damon stopped pretending money was different from violence. By noon, the warden had resigned. By 1, the medical contractor was under federal review. By 3, every guard who had touched Gerald Voss's file had either lawyered up, vanished, or begun begging for protective custody. At 4, Damon stood alone in the old execution observation room beneath Blackwell's east wing, staring through reinforced glass at a chair that had not been used in 20 years. He had not come for symbolism. Symbolism was for men who needed witnesses. Damon had come because the room was underground, soundproofed, and built by people who understood the practical applications of despair. Silas Crow stood behind him, silent as a grave marker. The last transport officer is ready. Damon did not turn. Did he ask for counsel? Yes. Did he get it? Yes. Did he ask for a priest? No. Then he still thinks he has leverage. Silas said nothing. Damon watched his own reflection in the glass. Black suit, white shirt, no tie. Thinner than he had been 6 months ago, though no one alive had been foolish enough to say it. His hair was shorter, his face harder. The press had begun using phrases like increasingly reclusive, erratic, authoritarian, and morally compromised. They were late. He had been morally compromised for years. The door opened behind him. A man was brought in by 2 Vale security officers, both wearing civilian suits and expressions empty enough to pass for law enforcement if no one looked too closely. The man between them was named Curtis Hale, 48, former correctional transport supervisor. 3 ex-wives, 1 offshore account, 1 gambling habit, and a daughter at NYU whose tuition had been paid through a trust owned by a shell company connected to Octavia Vale. Curtis Hale had been on duty the night Gerald Voss walked into Lucian's car. Curtis Hale had claimed smoke and signal jamming. Curtis Hale had lied. The security officers seated him at a metal table bolted to the floor. Damon turned at last. Curtis tried not to flinch. Failed. Good. Fear saved time. Mr. Hale, Damon said. Curtis swallowed. My lawyer said I shouldn't talk unless he's present. Your lawyer is upstairs reviewing the evidence packet that proves you accepted payment to alter a medical transport route. Curtis's face grayed. That's not true. Damon walked to the table and set a single photograph on the metal surface. Alara Voss in his archive, lit by cold overhead light. Her face turned toward the air claws, one hand curled around her mother's note. ring on our daughter. The photograph had been taken by a hidden camera Damon had not known remained active. Octavia had sent it to him every day for 6 months. No caption, no threat. She did not need one. Curtis stared at the photograph, confused. Damon placed a second image beside it. Gerald Voss climbing into Lucien's car. Then a third. Curtis Hale standing under the awning of a Queen's betting club, taking an envelope from a woman in gray gloves. Curtis stopped breathing normally. Damon sat across from him. The room seemed to lower around them. Where is Gerald Voss? Curtis shook his head. I don't know. Damon believed him. That was inconvenient. Who paid you? I don't know. That he did not believe. Damon leaned back. Your daughter's spring tuition was paid on February 3rd. Curtis's eyes flashed. There it was. The line. Men could sell strangers cheaply. Family cost more. Leave her out of this. I have. Curtis blinked. Damon's voice remained level. She received a merit scholarship this morning through an anonymous endowment at the university. Full tuition, housing, books. No connection to you, me, or the people who used her as a leash. Curtis stared at him. Hope was uglier than fear on guilty men. It made them look human. I can't, Curtis whispered. You already did. They'll kill me. No. Damon looked at the execution chair through the glass. I will decide what happens to you after you speak. Curtis shook his head harder. You don't understand them. That almost drew a smile. Almost. Damon reached into his jacket and withdrew a small black velvet box. He set it on the table. Curtis looked down. The box was empty. His confusion sharpened into dread. Damon's right hand rested on the table, the black veil ring catching the low light. 6 months ago, he had worn it like blame. Now it felt more like a countdown. The woman in the first photograph, Damon said, was taken after a private gala where several powerful people attempted to enforce a bloodline clause against her. She vanished before midnight. Her father disappeared months before that. You helped make both possible. I didn't touch her. No, Damon said. You only opened the door. Curtis's mouth worked. Damon waited. Silence stretched. Silas shifted in the corner, not impatient, ready. Curtis broke on the 4th minute. Crown Harbor, he said. Damon went still. Silas's gaze sharpened. Curtis lowered his voice as if the concrete might report him. That's all I heard. Crown Harbor. Some private island facility. Medical, I think. They said Voss had to be kept alive until the girl fulfilled the clause. After that, no one cared. Damon's blood went cold. Girl, fulfilled, clause. A red veil passed briefly across his vision. He blinked once and forced it back. Control was not morality. Control was aim. Who said that? Damon asked. Curtis shook his head. I never saw faces, just payments. Damon placed a folded document beside the photographs. Then you will identify accounts. I can't. You can. They'll come after me. They already own you, Damon said. I am offering to lease you back to yourself. Curtis gave a short, broken laugh. You talk like the devil. No, Damon stood. The devil offers better terms. He turned to Silas. Protective hold, no contact. Get the account trail. Curtis lurched upright. Wait. There was one more thing. Damon stopped. Curtis's eyes darted around the room. The woman in gray gloves. She smelled like smoke. Not cigarettes, like burned sugar. Expensive perfume, maybe. She had a scar here. He dragged a finger from the corner of his mouth to his jaw. And she said something when she gave me the money. Damon waited. She said, the bride gets the monster, and the monster gets his rule. Silas looked at Damon. Damon's hand curled once. His rule, not his deal, not his secret, not his bride. His rule. Octavia liked themes. She liked old words, carved stone, binding language, ritual dressed as legacy. But burned sugar, scar at the mouth, that was not Octavia. Damon had never seen the woman in gray gloves, but he knew who had. A journalist had written about her 3 years ago in an exposé that vanished within hours of publication. The author had claimed an unnamed woman, recruited wealthy men into a private fertility and inheritance circle disguised as a philanthropic foundation. The article had been killed. The journalist's sister disappeared 2 weeks later. The journalist herself had been sued into silence, blacklisted, surveilled, threatened, and forgotten by everyone sensible. Damon had not forgotten. Serafina Black, Sierra to those foolish enough to think she allowed closeness. He looked at Silas. Where is she? Silas did not ask who. She was last seen in Boston 2 months ago, using the name Sarah Bell. After that, nothing confirmed. Find her. I tried. Damon turned fully. Silas held his stare. He was one of the few men in Damon's world who could. Older by 15 years, built like a closed door, loyal in the grim way of soldiers who had already chosen where to die. I did, Silas said. She knows how to disappear. Everyone knows how to disappear until they need something. What does she need? Damon looked down at Alara's photograph. Not safety, not justice. Those were words people used when they still believed systems had spines. Sierra Black needed the same thing Damon did. A body, a name, a door into Crown Harbor. She needs an enemy large enough to make her reckless, Damon said. Give her me. Sierra Black broke into Damon Vale's townhouse at 1:17 in the morning with a stolen keycard, a dead woman's passcode, and a knife strapped to the inside of her thigh. She had expected alarms. She had expected cameras. She had expected at least one dog. Because billionaires loved pretending loyalty could be bred. She had not expected the front door to open for her. That should have been her first clue. Instead, she stood beneath the black iron balcony in a silk delivery, uniform 2 sizes too small, rain dripping off the brim of her cap, and stared at the unlocked service entrance like the universe had made a clerical error. Damon Vale did not make clerical errors. Men like him did not leave doors open. They left them baited. Sierra touched the scar along the inside of her wrist, a habit she hated and had not managed to break in 3 years. The scar was pale now, nearly invisible unless she turned her hand under harsh light. She had gotten it the night her sister disappeared, not from the people who took Celia, from herself, breaking a bathroom mirror to climb out the window of a hotel where she had been locked in with a friendly warning and a dead phone. That was before she learned rich men did not need chains. They had non-disclosure agreements, security teams, judges, digital ghosts, and women in gray gloves who smelled like burned sugar. She checked the street once. Empty. Too empty. Perfect, she whispered. Red, definitely a trap. Then she went in anyway. The service corridor was narrow, clean, and lit by recess strips along the floor. No staff, no voices, no visible cameras, which meant the cameras were better than visible. Sierra moved quickly, one gloved hand near the delivery bag, where her lockpick kit, signal cloner, and compact recorder sat beneath a layer of fake catering napkins. She had 20 minutes at most. 15 if Vale's security was competent. 5 if Vale was home. Her stolen floor plan was 6 months out of date, but the bones of old houses rarely changed. Service corridor, kitchen, staff stairs, West Hall, private office. She did not need his bedroom, his safe, or whatever obscene rich man panic room he had no doubt built beneath the wine cellar. She needed his archive. Specifically, she needed the file marked Eden House. Crown Harbor had appeared in 3 places across her investigation. A payment log tied to Celia's disappearance, a deleted flight plan from a private airstrip in Maine, and last week, in a message sent from an anonymous server with a single sentence, ask Vale what he lost at Crown Harbor. Sierra did not trust anonymous tips. She trusted patterns. Damon Vale was a pattern of one. Women vanished around his family. Evidence died near his money. Courts bent away from his name. Journalists learned to lower their voices when mentioning him, not because they feared being wrong, but because they feared being right. 6 months ago, Ilara Voss had walked into a Vale Foundation gala wearing a black ring and walked out of public record. No hospital admission, no flight manifest, no court filing, no death certificate. Gone, just like Celia, just like the nurse in Philadelphia, just like the Ashcroft girl. Sierra had spent 6 months connecting the missing women to one man, Damon Vale. Now his door had opened. Fine, she would walk through his trap, steal his secrets, and cut her way out if she had to. The kitchen was dark, stainless steel, spotless. No staff, no dishes, no life. She slipped through, crossed the rear hall, and paused near the main staircase. A portrait watched her from the wall. A dark-haired woman in oil paint, beautiful in a severe, haunted way. Sierra hated old portraits. They made dead women look complicit in the houses that had consumed them. "Sorry," she murmured to the painted woman. "I'm robbing your son." She moved on. The office doors were not locked. Second clue. Sierra stood before them, pulse steady, knife warm against her thigh. She considered leaving. That was how she knew she was still smart. Then she thought of Celia's last voicemail. "Sierra, if I don't call by morning, don't go to the police. Find the black ring." The voicemail ended with a man's voice in the background saying, "She was never yours to save." Sierra opened the office door. Damon Vale stood behind the desk, reading her article. Not a printout, the original version. The one scrubbed from the internet, legal servers, archive caches, and her own laptop after a malicious update fried the hard drive. Heritage Foundations and the Private Air Market by Serafina Black. He turned the page without looking up. "You took longer than expected." Sierra did not run. Pride was a stupid reason to die, but it was also the only reason she had kept breathing some nights. She closed the door behind her. "You left the door open." "Yes, that's rude." His gaze lifted. She had seen Damon Vale in photographs, court sketches, and surveillance stills. None of them had prepared her for the physical fact of him. Not beauty. Beauty was cheap. He had that, yes, in the brutal architecture of his face, the dark hair, the mouth cut for commands and restraint. But it was the density of him that stole the first clean breath out of the room. He did not merely occupy space. He ruled the physics of it. Monster King. That was what an ex-Vale assistant had called him in an encrypted chat. Before deleting herself from every platform Sierra could search, the name fit. Damon was dressed in black, sleeves rolled, no tie. A silver scar slicing through one eyebrow. His right hand rested flat on the article, old gold and black stone gleaming on his finger. The black ring. Sierra's body went cold. She kept her voice even. "You collect my work. I collect things people try too hard to erase." How noble. No, useful. Where is Ilara Voss? That got him. Not visibly to most people, maybe. But Sierra had built a career out of microfractures. The half-second pause before a denial, the throat movement before a lie, the eye flicker toward the door when a man remembered what he had locked behind it. Damon's hand tightened on the article. "Ilara Voss is missing," he said. "Convenient." "Yes." "Did you kill her?" "No." "Did your family?" The air changed. Sierra's fingers brushed the top of her delivery bag. Damon noticed. "Of course he did. If you reach for the recorder, I'll let you turn it on," he said. If you reach for the knife on your thigh, I'll disarm you before you clear the sheath. Sierra smiled. You looked. Your gait did. Flattering. Careless. Men usually say my legs distracted them. Men usually confess their weaknesses by accident. Sierra's smile thinned. Damon Vale was not supposed to be funny. Predators with dry wit were irritating. They made people listen too long. She reached slowly into the bag and removed the recorder. Damon did nothing. She set it on his desk and pressed record. Serafina Black, private interview with Damon Vale, recorded without formal counsel present. Approximately 1:24 a.m. His mouth shifted. That introduction would be more useful if this interview were legal. Oh, it's deeply illegal. Then be accurate. She stared at him. His eyes were very dark, not black exactly. Brown at the edges, like whiskey held over flame. Fine, she said. Breaking and entering private residence of Damon Vale. Recording initiated after target knowingly permitted it. Better. I hate you already. Most people require more time. I'm gifted. Clearly. No, absolutely not. Sierra refused to enjoy this. She opened her bag again and removed a photograph, tossing it onto his desk. Celia Black, 26, laughing on a beach in a yellow dress, hair loose, face turned toward the sun. Damon looked at the photograph. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Sierra's pulse sharpened. You know her? Yes. The answer hit too cleanly. Her hands went cold. Where is she? I don't know. Sierra pulled the knife. Damon was around the desk. Before she fully registered, he had moved. He caught her wrist, twisted once, and the blade fell to the carpet. His other hand braced against the desk beside her, not touching her body, but close enough that the heat of him broke against her skin. Sierra drove her knee up. He shifted, not enough for her to miss entirely, enough to take the strike on his thigh instead of where she aimed. His jaw tightened. Good. Pain meant he was not made of marble. Let go, she snapped. He released her immediately and stepped back. That stopped her more effectively than if he had held on. She had expected force, punishment, mockery. He gave her space. Her wrist tingled where his fingers had been, but he had not hurt her. Not really. His grip had been hard enough to disarm, careful enough not to bruise. She hated that precision. Do not pull a knife unless you intend to use it, he said. I intended. No, you wanted to see what I would do. And his gaze dropped briefly to the knife on the floor. Now you know. What do I know? That I can stop you without harming you. Her laugh was sharp. Congratulations, you're the ethical monster. His expression did not change, but something in his eyes cooled. Monsters are often ethical in specific directions. It is why people misjudge them. Sierra's skin prickled. He was not denying the word. That bothered her. Men like Damon denied everything. They called themselves misunderstood, complicated, falsely accused. They hired reputation firms and crisis litigators. They weaponized injury and called accountability cruelty. Damon Vale stood in front of her and let monsters sit between them as if the title had weight, but no shock. "Where is my sister?" she asked. "I told you, I don't know. But you knew her. I knew of her. How?" She was listed in a compatibility ledger tied to Eden House. The name punched through the room. Sierra forgot the knife. "What did you say?" Damon returned to his side of the desk and picked up a gray folder. Celia Black. Blood sample taken during a private wellness screening at the Davenant Foundation retreat 3 years ago. Flagged as secondary compatible with a Covenant airline. Transferred to Eden House intake, review 2 weeks before she vanished. Sierra stared at the folder. Her pulse became soundless. Secondary compatible. Wellness screening. Intake review. The old words in new clothes. Rich people laundering violence through medical language. "Give me that." Damon held it out. She did not take it immediately. "Why?" she asked. "Because you came for it." "Why give it to me?" "Because I need what you know." "There it is." "There it is," he agreed. She snatched the folder and opened it. Celia's name. Celia's birth date. Medical abbreviations. Redactions. A photograph from the retreat, taken from a distance. Celia standing near a white tent with a glass of champagne in one hand. Alive, unknowing. Sierra's vision blurred. She blinked once hard. No, not here. Not in front of him. Never in front of him. Damon's voice was quieter when he spoke. "I have no evidence that she is dead. That did it. Not comfort, not reassurance. Evidence." Sierra looked up. "Do not use evidence like kindness. It is the only kindness I trust." The line should not have hit. It did. She closed the folder. "What is Eden House?" "A facility." "Where?" "Crown Harbor, possibly." "Possibly." I confirmed the phrase tonight, not the location. "You expect me to believe you do." "Know where this facility is?" "Yes." "I don't." "Good." He opened the top drawer of his desk and removed another photograph. Hilaire Voss. Sierra knew her face from court feeds, legal profiles, gala surveillance, and 6 months of obsessive cross-referencing. In this photograph, Alara looked exhausted, fierce, and alive in a cold archive room. Her finger was bare, but a red mark circled the skin where a ring had been. Damon set it on the desk with a care that told Sierra more than he probably intended. There it was. The wound. "Your missing fiancé," Sierra said. "Temporary contractual fiancé." How romantic. It was not. Clearly, women always vanish after paperwork-heavy engagements. His gaze sharpened, careful. Sierra leaned forward. "Or what?" His voice went soft. "Or you will discover which parts of me remain civilized only because I keep them aimed elsewhere. The words moved through her like a cold draft. A threat, yes, but not sexual, not crude, not even directed at her body. It was a warning from a man who knew the room inside himself where violence lived and had locked it for everyone's benefit. Sierra stepped closer instead of back. Did you love her? The question struck him. There, another fracture, this one deeper. Damon looked at Alara's photograph. For one naked second, the Monster King was simply a man standing over proof of what he had failed to protect. Then the gates came down. That is not relevant. It is if grief is making you stupid. Grief does not make me stupid. No, I bet it makes you rich men poetic. Let me guess. You blame yourself, sleep 3 hours a week, buy prisons, interrogate transport officers in basements, and call it strategy. His eyes darkened. She had hit close. Good. Close was where truth bled. Damon picked up a file and handed it to her. Your exposé described a woman with a scar near her mouth who smelled like burned sugar. You named her Gray. Sierra went still. No one outside her original source notes knew that nickname. The published article had called the woman an unnamed recruiter. Gray had been in her encrypted files. Files destroyed 3 years ago. How do you know that? I recovered your notes. Her hand tightened on the folder. You hacked me. No, don't get cute with semantics. I bought the company that handled the forensic cleanup after your laptop was compromised. Sierra stared, then laughed once. Of course you did. I recovered fragments. Gray appears in 12. And she paid Curtis Hale to divert Gerald Voss's transport. He identified the scent and scar tonight. Sierra's breath left her. Gray, alive, active, connected to Damon, Celia, Alara, Gerald, Eden House. The pattern sharpened into something with teeth. Where is Hale? She asked. Secured. Can I interview him? No. Then this conversation is over. Damon's gaze held hers. He is terrified and compromised. You can submit questions. Annika will conduct them. Who's Annika? The office door opened. A compact woman in a black suit entered with a gun in one hand and Sierra's stolen keycard in the other. The person who watched you bypass the service entrance with criminal enthusiasm. Sierra looked from Annika to Damon. You waited this long to bring backup. Damon did not blink. I did not need backup, Annika said. He did need someone to keep him from turning this into a recruitment pitch with poor emotional pacing. Sierra's brows lifted. Damon looked at Annika. That was unnecessary. It was accurate. I was building trust. No, Sierra said. You were building leverage. Annika pointed the keycard at her. See, she understands pacing. Sierra decided she liked Annika, which was unfortunate because liking people in Damon Vale's house seemed like the first step toward a shallow grave or a long NDA. Why am I still alive? Sierra asked. Damon's expression did not shift. Because I don't kill journalists. Low bar. Most powerful men trip over it. Damn him. That one landed. Sierra tucked Celia's folder under one arm. What do you want? Crown Harbor. I don't have it. You have something close enough to make you break into my house. She said nothing. Damon leaned back in his chair, watching her with infuriating patience. Sierra had interviewed senators, war criminals, hedge fund frauds, religious predators, and grieving mothers who could expose more rot in one sentence than prosecutors found in 10 years. She knew when silence was strategy. Damon's silence was not empty. It invited confession like a trapdoor. She refused to step. Then he said, "Your sister may be alive." Sierra's restraint cracked so fast, she hated herself. Do not. If she was transferred to Eden House, there are 3 likely outcomes. His voice remained even, but not cold. She was released under another identity. She remains medically controlled inside the network. Or she was moved to a secondary facility after pregnancy confirmation. Pregnancy. The word hit like a fist. Sierra's skin went numb. What? Damon's jaw tightened. Ed, the Covenant's interest is reproductive control. You think I don't know that? I think knowing a system exists is different from hearing your sister may have been caught inside it. Her hand closed around the edge of his desk. Damon saw, did not move toward her. Breathe, Annika said, voice clipped but not unkind. Sierra's laugh came out thin. I hate this house. That is healthy, Annika said. Damon looked at the file in Sierra's arms. I am not telling you she is pregnant. I am telling you why time matters. Time. 3 years. Sierra had spent 3 years hunting ghosts, while Celia might have been alive somewhere, pregnant or hurt or hidden under a name. No database would return. Her rage needed a body. Damon Vale stood conveniently nearby. You knew about Eden House, she said. I knew it existed. For how long? 7 years. She moved before the answer finished. The slap cracked across his face. Annika stepped forward. Damon lifted one hand, stopping her. Sierra's palm stung. Damon's head had turned slightly with the impact. He brought his face back to hers, a red mark rising along his cheekbone. He did not touch her, did not threaten her, did not even look surprised. I deserved that, he said. Probably not enough. No, the honesty did not soothe her. It made the fury worse, because there was nowhere clean to put it. You knew women were being taken. I suspected. Don't. I suspected, he repeated, harder now. I did not have names, locations, evidence, or access. Every time I moved directly, someone vanished faster. My sister vanished anyway. Yes, Alara vanished anyway. Yes, and now you want to team up. Yes. Sierra stepped close, too close, because anger had always been her least elegant form of courage. I don't work for monsters. Damon rose. Slowly, the size of him changed the air, but he did not crowd her. Not exactly. He stood behind the desk, hands visible, posture controlled. No, he said, you expose them. His gaze held hers. Dark, merciless, not pleading. You want Gray, he continued. You want Eden House. You want Celia. I want Alara, Gerald Voss, and the Covenant Ledger. Our objectives overlap. Our trust does not need to. Sierra hated how logical that was. She also hated the thin, traitorous awareness moving beneath her anger. Damon was too close, too controlled, too dangerous in the exact way that made survival instincts confuse themselves with curiosity. His cheek was marked from her hand. His eyes were steady. He had allowed the strike because he believed he deserved it. And that was its own kind of manipulation, whether he meant it or not. Your face is red, she said. I noticed. I'm not sorry. I noticed that too. Are you always this irritating? Not always, Annika said, mostly. Damon ignored her. Sierra looked back at Celia's folder. If I agree to share information, I set terms. Expected. I don't stay here. No. She blinked. Damon continued. You are too good at escape and too hostile to house security. You stay in a secure hotel under your own name or an alias of your choosing. Vale funds it through blind counsel. You control your room. Your devices are yours unless you ask for hardening. The answer stopped her, because it was exactly what she would have demanded if he had argued, which meant he had anticipated her. She did not like being anticipated. No surveillance, she said. No surveillance in private spaces. External protective detail only. No tail I don't know about. Then it is not a tail. It is visible protection. I said no. Then you will be dead in a week. Threat. Assessment. She smiled without warmth. I've survived 3 years without you. You were not inside the active board until tonight. The what? Damon looked at Annika. Annika placed a tablet on the desk and turned it towards Sierra. On the screen was an image of a black chessboard. Some pieces were marked with names. Damon Vale, Ilara Voss, Gerald Voss, Lucian Vale, Octavia Vale, Gray, Serafina Black, Celia Black. Sierra's name sat on a square marked witness vector. Her sisters sat on one marked secondary, HEIR unknown. The sight made her want to smash the tablet. Remove my sister from your creepy billionaire murder board. It is not a murder board, Damon said. Annika added, the murder board is downstairs. Sierra stared at her. Annika stared back. I'm joking, Annika said. A pause. Mostly. Sierra looked at Damon. You people are deeply unwell. Yes, he said. No argument. Again. Infuriating. She tapped the screen near her name. What does witness vector mean? It means Gray may use you to lure me, discredit evidence, or activate media pressure. at a time that benefits Octavia. I am not anyone's vector. You became one when you published the first article. I became one when they took my sister. Damon accepted the correction with a slight nod. Yes. Sierra looked at the board again. Alara's name was ringed in red. The mark bothered her, not because she cared a boo. T. Damon's missing fiancé. She did not. She cared about missing women. That was different. What happened the night Alara vanished? She asked. Damon's face closed. Annika's expression shifted too. That was answer enough. Sierra leaned closer. You want my trust-adjacent cooperation. Start there. Damon picked up the recorder from his desk and turned it off. Sierra's eyes narrowed. Excuse me. What I'm about to show you includes footage of Alara under direct threat. It is not for your archive. I'm a journalist. You are also a sister. The word struck. Sierra said nothing. Damon slid the recorder back to her. You can summarize after, not record. Convenient. Yes, I could walk. Yes, I could publish everything you've already said. Yes, you're very confident for a man whose house I broke into. You broke into the version of my house I permitted you to access. Sierra stared. Then she laughed, low and humorless. There he is. Damon did not smile. Annika dimmed the office lights and activated the wall screen. The footage began at the Vale Foundation Winter Gala, a ballroom lit in gold and white. Women in silk, men in tuxedos, cameras flashing, champagne moving through the room on silver trays, beauty arranged over wrought. Alara Voss entered on Damon's arm wearing a silver gown that looked like moonlight sharpened into fabric. Her dark hair was swept back. Her face was calm in the way women looked calm when they had decided fear would not get the dignity of expression. On her finger, the black ring. Sierra glanced at Damon. He watched the screen like a man, watching a crime he had committed. The footage jumped. Octavia Vale stood at a dais, elegant in black, speaking to the room. No audio, Damon narrated. She revealed the second page. The screen showed a document projected behind Octavia. Damon's signature. Witness marks. A line naming Alara Marin Voss as reserved under old internal law. Alara stepped forward. The room shifted around her. Men leaned in. Women watched without blinking. Damon moved as if to stop her, then did not. Alara demanded the chain of authority, he said. Sierra looked at him. That was her plan. Yes, good. His gaze flicked to her. She forced the covenant witnesses to identify themselves. Damon continued. Mara had a filing package ready. Sierra Black would have approved. Sierra ignored that. The screen changed again. Chaos. Not dramatic chaos. Worse. Polite chaos. People moving too smoothly. Security closing doors. Waiters redirecting guests. Musicians continuing to play while something violent happened at the edge of the frame. Then smoke. Not thick, not enough to cause panic. Enough to obscure cameras. Damon's body changed beside Sierra. She saw it before she saw the footage. On screen, Alara turned. A woman in gray gloves stood behind her, scar from mouth to jaw. Sierra stopped breathing. Gray leaned close to Alara's ear. Alara's face altered. Not fear, recognition. Then the lights cut. When the footage returned, Damon was on the ballroom floor, blood on his shirt. One hand wrapped around a man's throat. Alara was gone. The video ended. No one spoke. The dark office felt smaller after the screen went black. Sierra's fingers dug into Celia's folder until the paper bent. "Play it again," she said. Damon did. This time she watched Gray. The movement, the posture, the way she leaned in, the way Alara reacted. Recognition, not of Gray, of whatever Gray had said. "Can you isolate audio?" Sierra asked. No, Jammer corrupted most of it. Lip read. Partial. What did she say? Damon's gaze remained on the frozen image of Gray leaning toward Alara. She said, "Your father chose the brother. Your mother chose the beast. Now choose the baby." The word landed like a stone, dropped into deep water. "Baby." Sierra looked at him. "What baby?" Damon said nothing. Damon. His name tasted strange. Too familiar. She hated that. He looked at her then, and for the first time all night, she saw something in him that was not control, threat, guilt, or strategy. Terror. Alara may have been pregnant, he said. Sierra's anger faltered. The room changed around that admission, not because pregnancy softened the story. In this world, pregnancy made the stakes sharper, uglier, more valuable to the wrong people. It turned a missing woman into an inheritance mechanism, a body into evidence, a child into property before birth. Sierra knew that. Celia's file burned under her arm. "Yours?" she asked. Damon's eyes darkened. "If she was pregnant, yes. If..." She never told me. There were signs, medical indicators. A test found after she vanished. "You didn't know?" "No." The answer was stripped bare. Sierra did not trust him, but she believed that. Damon Vale might lie cleanly. He might omit like breathing. He might maneuver people into rooms and call it mutual interest. But this pain had no polish. "What happened after?" she asked. "I tore apart the building. Literally. One wing is unusable." Of course it was. Sierra Lowe oaked at Annika. Annika's face confirmed it. "How many dead?" "None," Damon said. That surprised her. He noticed. "I said unusable, not occupied. Restraint from the Monster King." His eyes sharpened at the nickname. "You know that one. I collect names too. They call you that for a reason." "Yes." "And Alara still trusted you enough to walk in there." "No." Damon looked back at the screen. "She trusted the plan. She used me as part of it." Sierra studied him. He sounded almost proud. that complicated things. She despised complications. The office phone rang once. Annika checked the display. Sela's. Damon answered. Report. Sierra could hear only a deep male voice, clipped and faint through the receiver. Damon's expression changed on the third sentence. Send it. A file appeared on the wall screen. A map. Coastline islands. Shipping lanes. Maine. Crown Harbor. A red circle marked a private island 12 miles offshore. The label read, Eden House Foundation Retreat Facility. Sierra's heart slammed against her ribs. Damon stared at the screen. Annika whispered, We found it. Sierra stepped toward the map. Celia, Ilara. The island sat in cold water, like a wound finally surfacing. Then another file loaded beneath it. A recent thermal scan. Bodies, multiple heat signatures. One wing active. One dock. 2 helipads. Medical grade generators. And a name attached to the property deed. Not Octavia Vale. Not Damon. Not Gray. Sierra read it twice before the room made sense again. Owner of record. Celia Black Holdings, LLC. Her sister. No, Sierra whispered. Damon's gaze cut to her. She backed away from the screen. No, that's impossible. Annika moved carefully. Shell ownership is often forged. Sierra shook her head. No. Damon stepped out from behind the desk, stopping several feet away. Sierra, do not say my name like that. Like what? Like you're about to make this worse. His silence answered. The wall screen refreshed again. A second document appeared. Not a deed. A medical intake form. Celia Mara Black. Status, resident director. Date 3 months ago. Sierra's hand went to the scar on her wrist. Resident director. Not patient. Not captive. Director. Damon's voice came low. That may be false. She looked at him. Fury and terror twisting together until they were indistinguishable. Or my sister is helping them. The words broke something open. Celia laughing on a beach. Celia calling at midnight. Celia saying, find the black ring. Celia vanishing into the same machine that now listed her as part of its staff. Sierra could not breathe. Damon took 1 step forward. She lifted a hand. Stop. He stopped. Immediately. That mattered. She hated that it mattered. I'm fine, she lied. No, Damon said. You are standing because rage is holding you upright. Then thank God for rage. Yes, he said, for now. The office fell silent. Then the recorder on Damon's desk, the one Sierra had turned off, clicked on by itself. A burst of static. A woman's voice filled the room. Soft, familiar, impossible. Sierra. Every drop of blood in Sierra's body turned to ice. She looked at the recorder. Damon's face had gone lethal. Annika raised her gun toward the device. The voice spoke again, shaking. Sierra, if you're with Damon Vale, get out. He isn't hunting Eden House. A sob caught on the line. He belongs to it. Chapter 2. The Captive Witness. Sierra knew her sister's voice. 3 years of silence had not changed that. Not the breathless edge when Celia was scared. Not the slight rasp on the letter S from the winter she broke her jaw skiing at 19 and refused to wear the corrective guard. Not the way panic made her sound younger than she was, as if fear could peel a grown woman down to the girl who once crawled into Sierra's bed during thunderstorms and whispered, "Tell me the ending before the scary part." Sierra had told her the ending every time. The monster loses. The sisters survive. The lights come back on. Now Celia's voice came from a recorder that had turned itself on inside Damon Vale's office. And the lights were very much still out. He belongs to it. No one moved. The sentence hung in the room like a hand around a throat. Damon's face had gone so still it looked almost inhuman. Annika kept her weapon trained on the recorder uselessly because the threat was not inside the plastic device. It was inside the signal, the house, the walls, the network, maybe the bloodline itself. Sierra stared at the recorder. "Celia," Static hissed. "Celia, answer me." "Nothing." She grabbed the recorder from Damon's desk. Annika said, "Don't touch." Too late. The device flashed hot in Sierra's hand, a tiny red light pulsing beneath the casing. Damon crossed the room fast, but stopped when Sierra backed away. Fingers locked around the recorder like it was her sister's wrist, and letting go meant losing her again. "Sierra," he said, "don't. It may be compromised. My sister is compromised. That too." The bluntness cracked through her panic. She looked at him. Damon Vale stood a careful distance away, one hand slightly open at his side, the other near his phone, but not reaching. The mark from her slap had darkened along his cheekbone. He did not look angry about it. He looked focused on the recorder, on her hand, on her breathing. Her breathing. Damn him. "Did you do this?" she asked. His eyes lifted to hers. "No." "Did your people?" "No." "Did you know she was alive?" "No." "You expect me to believe you?" "No." The word hit with familiar irritation. He did that. Cut away the social lie before it could be useful. He did not ask for trust. He made her carry the heavier thing, the possibility that truth could come from a man she had every reason to hate. Annika lowered her gun by a fraction. "We need that device isolated." Sierra pulled it closer to her chest. "You're not taking it." "It transmitted through our internal shield," Annika said. "That means either someone piggybacked your equipment before you entered, or they found a way through Mr. Vale's system. Either way, it needs to be contained. Do I look like I care about your system?" "You should," Damon said. "It may be the only reason Celia reached you." Sierra's grip tightened. "Celia, alive? Maybe." The voice could have been synthesized, spliced, deep-faked, manipulated. Sierra had exposed enough corporate fraud to know audio could be made to confess to murders it had never witnessed. But this was not just sound. It was rhythm, breath, the little break in Celia's voice on Sierra's name. Her body believed before her brain would permit it. That was the cruelty of hope. It made evidence feel secondary. Damon turned to Annika. Faraday case, manual scan only, no networked devices. Annika left. Sierra's eyes narrowed. You're very comfortable giving orders around my sister's voice. I am comfortable giving orders when the alternative is standing still. You always have an alternative that gives you control. Yes, at least he knew. At least that. Sierra held up the recorder. She said you belong to Eden House. She may believe that. Do you? No. Have you been there? Damon did not answer fast enough. There. A pause. Sierra felt her world narrow to the size of his silence. Have you been there? She repeated. Yes. Annika stopped in the doorway. Damon did not look at her. Sierra's blood went cold. When I was a child, that changed nothing. That changed everything. How old? 7, maybe 8. Maybe. I was not permitted calendars. The words were too quiet to be dramatic. They were worse because of that. Sierra's anger hesitated, and she despised herself for it. She did not want his childhood. She wanted Celia. She wanted blame with a clean edge. Damon kept making the blade jagged. You remember it? She asked. Parts? What parts? His face closed. Not enough to help. Convenient. Yes, you really do know how to make yourself sound guilty. I am guilty of many things. I try to keep the list accurate. She laughed once, bitter and raw. Is that supposed to be moral? No, operational. Annika returned carrying a small black metal case lined with copper mesh. Put it in here. Sierra did not move. Annika's voice softened by 1 degree. You can watch the scan. No one erases anything. Sierra looked at Damon. If that recording disappears, I'll burn your house down. It is insured. Your next one too. That would be inconvenient. Try me. Something flickered in his eyes. Not amusement exactly. Recognition. I believe you, he said. She placed the recorder in the case. Annika sealed it and connected a small handheld analyzer with a cable. No wireless. No upload. No hidden theater. Sierra watched every movement anyway. The device replayed static first, then Celia's voice. Sierra. Sierra's lungs locked. Damon looked away. Not out of guilt, she thought. Out of something like courtesy. She hated that she noticed. Celia's voice continued, fractured by interference. Sierra, if you're with Damon Vale, get out. He isn't hunting Eden House. He belongs to it. A click, then another layer surfaced beneath the first playback. Annika froze. Damon's eyes sharpened. Again. Annika adjusted a dial. The second layer emerged under the static, quieter than Celia's voice. A mechanical rhythm, 3 soft tones, then a whisper that was not Celia. Rule begins when the witness stays. Sierra felt the floor shift. What does that mean? Damon's gaze went to the murder board that was apparently not the murder board, where her name sat under witness vector. Annika's face hardened. It means they expected her to come here. Sierra looked between them. Expected me. Damon said nothing. This time, she hated the silence more because she understood it before he spoke. He had opened the door. He had baited her, and someone else had baited the bait. Sierra smiled slowly, without humor. Congratulations, Vale. You got played. His expression did not change. Yes. Annika winced very slightly, as if she had expected him to object and hated that he did not. Sierra folded her arms, recorder case on the desk between them. Let me guess. You leaked enough information about yourself to make me reckless. Yes. You wanted me inside your house. Yes. You intended to offer me files on Celia in exchange for Crown Harbor. Yes. And Gray or Octavia, or my possibly not evil but definitely alive sister, knew all of that. Appears so. Do you ever get tired of saying yes to terrible things? Yes. There it was again. The tiny, infuriating thread of dry wit in a room full of disaster. Sierra should not have wanted to laugh. She did not laugh. She wanted to. That made her angrier. She pointed at the recorder case. Your system is compromised. Possibly, your house is compromised. No, she spoke through my recorder in your office. The recorder was compromised before you entered. My house allowed the signal to reveal itself. That is a very rich man way of saying your fortress burped. Annika coughed. Damon's eyes remained on Sierra, colorful, inaccurate. I'm a writer. I prefer memorable over kind. I noticed. The office phone chimed. Damon looked toward the screen. Sela's. A video feed opened on the wall. A broad-shouldered man with close-cropped gray hair appeared from what looked like a moving vehicle. Rain streaked the window behind him. Crown Harbor deed is layered through 5 shell companies, Sela said. Celia Black Holdings, LLC, is real, but dormant until 3 months ago. Signature on activation paperwork matches Celia's public records, but the digital certificate was issued after her disappearance. Sierra stepped forward, meaning forged. Silas's eyes moved to her. He assessed her in one cold sweep and apparently found her either acceptable or not worth addressing. Meaning possibly coerced, forged, or executed under an alias system we haven't cracked. Who are you? Sela's crow. The murder board guy. Sela's looked at Damon. Damon looked at Annika. Annika looked at the ceiling. Sierra almost smiled. Almost. Sela's continued. Thermal scan confirms at least 26 bodies on the island. 10 in the residential wing. 8 in the medical wing. 4 security. 4 unknown mobile signatures below grade. Below grade, Damon asked. Basement or tunnel system? Damon's eyes darkened. The child in him remembered something. Sierra saw it. Before she could decide whether to ask, Silas added, one more thing. A boat left Crown Harbor 19 minutes after the recorder transmission. Headed south. No transponder. Satellite lost it in weather. Can you identify passengers? Damon asked. No, but we captured one still from a harbor cam before the boat went dark. The wall screen changed. The image was grainy night vision green, distorted by rain and distance. A woman stood on a dock wearing a pale coat, one hand braced against a railing, dark hair whipping around her face. Her profile was blurred, but the posture struck Sierra like an echo. Celia, maybe, or a ghost made from hope and bad pixels. Beside her stood another woman. Silver gown, dark hair, one hand curved protectively over her lower stomach. Damon stopped breathing. The room fell into absolute silence. Ilara Voss looked directly toward the harbor camera. Alive, Sierra's gaze cut to Damon. Whatever monster King the World had built from his name vanished. The man standing beside her broke, without moving. His face did not collapse. His voice did not crack. But the stillness changed again, going beyond control into something almost animal. A body recognizing its missing part across distance, across months, across every failure that had been used to train it into obedience. Ilara, he said. Her name did not sound like a word. It sounded like an injury reopened. Sierra looked back at the image. Ilara's hand on her stomach. Celia's file under Sierra's arm. The phrase from Gray's mouth in the gala footage. Now choose the baby. Her own sister's voice. He belongs to it. The story shifted again, and Sierra hated every new shape it took. Is that her? She asked, though she already knew. Yes, Damon said. Is she pregnant? He did not answer. The silence was answer enough. Silas said, timestamp 22 minutes ago. Damon came alive all at once. Track the boat through coastal radar, private docks, fuel purchases, storm shelter logs. Pull every camera south of the harbor. Annika, Team 2, ready in 15. Sierra grabbed the edge of the desk. I'm coming. No. The word cut through the room. Sierra turned slowly. Excuse me. Damon's eyes remained on the screen. You are staying here until we confirm whether that boat was bait. You used me as bait less than an hour ago. Yes. Now suddenly you object to the concept. I object to repeating the enemy's plan after they announce it. They have my sister. They may have your sister. They have Ilara. They may have wanted me to see her. Sierra stared at him. There was that cold operational control again, closing around grief before it could act. It was impressive. It was horrible. It made her want to shake him and step closer at the same time, which was unacceptable. You see the woman you've been hunting for 6 months, and your first instinct is to doubt the evidence. My first instinct is to tear apart the coastline, he said. That is why I do not obey first instincts. His voice was level, but his hand had tightened on the desk hard enough that his knuckles had whitened around the black ring. Sierra looked at the ring. Celia had told her to find it, then told her to run from the man wearing it. What exactly are you? She asked. Damon looked at her then. The question did something to the room. Annika's face sharpened in warning, but she did not interrupt. Damon's answer came slowly. The wrong product of a worse family. That's not an answer. It is the cleanest one. Try dirtier. His gaze held hers. For 1 second, Sierra thought he might open whatever door Celia had pointed toward, whatever truth linked Damon as hunter and belonging, victim and heir, monster and key. Instead, the lights in the office shifted from warm amber to emergency red. An alarm did not sound. Somehow the silence was worse. Annika touched her earpiece. Perimeter breach. Damon's eyes went hard. Where? East roof access. 3 signatures. No, 4. She paused. They bypassed outer sensors. Sierra's pulse kicked. Damon turned to her. Did anyone know you were coming here? No. Did you leave a trail? Not one amateurs could follow. These aren't amateurs. I gathered that from the rooftop ninjas. Damon crossed to the wall and pressed his palm against a hidden panel. A section of shelving slid open, revealing weapons, comms, body armor, and a second reinforced door. Of course, Billionaire panic room. Sierra's instincts screamed against stepping anywhere Damon Vale wanted her to go. No, she said. He did not look at her. You prefer the roof team. I prefer not being locked in your wall. You control the interior release. You said that to Alara too. The sentence struck before she could stop it. Damon went still. There was no dramatic reaction, no flinch, but the entire room felt the impact. Sierra regretted it only because it had been cruel, without being useful. Then Damon opened the hidden door and stepped aside. Yes, he said, and she still vanished. So this time, you will hold the release. Annika will stay with you, and I will remain outside. That disarmed her more effectively than force would have. Again, damn him. Annika removed a small device from the wall panel and placed it in Sierra's hand. Manual release. Press twice to open from inside. Hold for 3 seconds to trigger external alarm and flash the room's location to Mara Ellison, Sela's, and 2 independent security contacts. Sierra looked at the device. You people really do plan for everything. Damon's voice was colder. No, we plan for the last thing that failed. A crash sounded somewhere above them. Not loud enough to be close enough to be real. Sierra shoved Celia's folder into her bag. I'm not hiding. No, Damon said. You are preserving the witness. I am the witness. Yes, You don't own my risk tolerance. No, his gaze locked on hers. But you are carrying the only direct line we have to Celia Black. And if they came for you, they came to stop what you know before you know it. Another crash. Closer. Annika drew her weapon. 30 seconds. Sierra hated the logic. She hated it most because it was right. She stepped into the hidden room, not because Damon told her to, because Celia's voice was inside that recorder case, and the recorder case was now inside Annika's hand. Annika followed her in. Damon remained outside the threshold. Sierra looked at him through the opening. If you die, I'm publishing that your security let me in through the service entrance. His mouth almost moved. Almost. If I die, lead with something stronger. I'll workshop the headline. I expect no less. The shelf began to slide closed. Sierra caught one last glimpse of him. Black shirt, black ring, red mark on his face from her hand. Eyes already turning toward whatever had entered his house. Then the wall sealed. The room beyond was smaller than she expected. Not a bunker. More like a secure interior office with 2 chairs, a monitor wall, a manual ventilation panel, and a steel exit at the back. Annika placed the recorder case on a table and activated the screens. Camera feeds filled the wall. Hallway, staircase, roof access, library, portrait corridor, garage. Sierra moved close. Damon appeared on one feed, walking alone down the main hall. No gun visible. No guards. Just him. Is he insane? Sierra asked. Yes, Annika said. You answered too fast. I've had time. Damon reached the portrait hall and stopped beneath the painting of his mother. The feed flickered once. Then the roof camera died. Annika's expression hardened. There, using directed signal interference. Can they get in here? No. Comforting. Most. I know. Less comforting. The hallway feed showed 3 figures descending the stairs. Black tactical clothing, covered faces, suppressed weapons. Damon stood at the end of the hall, hands loose at his sides, looking almost bored. Sierra's skin tightened. The first intruder raised a gun. Damon said something. No audio. The intruder hesitated. The second figure moved left. Too late. The wall beside him opened, and 2 security officers came out hard and fast. Annika watched without blinking as the hall became a coordinated trap. Not chaos, choreography. Men disarmed, slammed down, zip-tied. One tried to run and hit a locked fire door that had not been locked seconds earlier. The third intruder got past the first wave and lunged toward Damon with a knife. Sierra's breath caught. Damon caught his wrist, turned, and put the man into the floor with such clean violence that Sierra felt it in her own bones. He did not keep hitting. He did not punish. He restrained. That was more disturbing than brutality would have been. Men who enjoyed violence wasted motion. Damon did not waste anything. Then the fourth signature appeared, not on the stairs. Behind him, a woman stepped out of the shadowed alcove beneath Helena Vale's portrait. Gray gloves, scar from mouth to jaw. Sierra's hand flew to the screen. There, Annika cursed and reached for comms. Gray is inside, portrait hall, north alcove. On screen, Damon turned before the woman touched him. Good instincts, bad timing. Gray was not aiming for him. She lifted one gloved hand and pressed something against Helena Vale's portrait. The entire hall feed turned white. Annika recoiled from the monitor. Flash pulse. The screens glitched. When the image returned, Damon was on one knee, one hand braced against the floor. The intruders were down. Gray stood 3 feet in front of him. She had removed her mask. The scar twisted her smile into something almost tender. Sierra could not hear her, but Damon could. His face changed. Not fear, recognition. Sierra leaned closer. He knows her. Annika's mouth tightened. I don't. Gray crouched in front of Damon, slow and intimate, as if kneeling before a wounded king. Damon reached for her throat. His hand stopped midway, not because he chose to stop, because his body failed him. What did she do? Sierra demanded. Unknown. Drug. Air system is clean. No dart visible. On screen, Gray touched Damon's black ring with one gloved finger. He jerked as if she had pressed a blade to a nerve. Sierra remembered Celia's warning. He belongs to it. Gray leaned close to Damon's ear and said something. Sierra watched her lips. She played enough footage frame by frame to catch partial words. Rule, witness, Eden. Then Gray looked directly at the hidden camera. At Sierra, she smiled and mouthed clearly, Hello, Serafina. Sierra's stomach dropped. The secure room lights flickered. Annika spun toward the rear exit. Stay behind me. No argument. The rear steel door made a low clicking sound. Once, twice, Annika aimed her gun. The door did not open. Instead, a speaker in the ceiling activated. Celia's voice filled the room again. Sierra, listen to me. If Damon sees the island, he won't save us. He'll remember. Sierra's throat closed. Annika looked at the speaker. Then the recorder case. Then the monitor where Damon remained on one knee in the hall, while Gray watched him like a woman, admiring an old experiment. What will he remember? Sierra whispered. The audio cracked. Celia's voice dropped lower. He was the first boy they brought to Eden House. And Alara's baby isn't the first heir they made from him. The room went silent. Sierra stared at the speaker. Annika went white. On the monitor, Damon lifted his head, as if he had heard the words through concrete, steel, and blood. His eyes found the camera, found Sierra. Gray smiled beside him. Then every screen went black. Chapter 3. The Island of Eden. Every screen went black. For 1 second, Sierra heard nothing but her own blood. Annika moved. Fast, she grabbed the recorder case, shoved it against Sierra's chest, and pulled her away from the monitor wall as the secure room lights shifted from emergency red to a flat white that made everything look surgical. Back door, Annika said. Sierra clutched the case automatically. What about Damon? Damon is outside. That is not an answer. It is the only one that keeps you alive. The rear steel door clicked again. Not opening. Unlocking. Annika raised her gun and angled her body in front of Sierra. Manual release in your hand. Press it. Sierra looked down. The little device Annika had given her sat warm in her fist. Press twice to open from inside. Hold for 3 seconds to trigger external alarm. She pressed twice. Nothing. Annika's jaw tightened. Sierra pressed again. The door did not move. Of course, Sierra said, because billionaire panic rooms are apparently designed by men who assume fear improves obedience. Annika crossed to the rear panel, ripped open a small compartment, and osed a keypad and mechanical lever. It should have opened. Love that for us. Quiet. The ceiling speaker crackled. Celia's voice returned, distorted now, stretched thin by static. Sierra. Every muscle in Sierra's body locked. Annika did not look up from the panel. Do not answer. Sierra stared at the speaker. Sierra, are you there? The voice was Celia. It was. It had to be. But Sierra had also spent enough of her life learning how traps spoke in voices people loved. Annika shoved the recorder case into a copper-lined drawer beneath the table and slammed it shut. The voice kept coming through the ceiling. Not the recorder. The house. Sierra, please. I don't have much time. Sierra's throat hurt. Celia. Annika swore under her breath. The speaker hissed. Oh, thank God. Celia sobbed once. You need to leave him, please. He doesn't know what he is. Sierra gripped the edge of the table. Where are you? I can't say. Are you at Eden House? A pause. Too long. Yes. The word made the room smaller. Annika glanced back, eyes sharp. Sierra forced her voice steady. Are you alone? No. Is Alara with you? Static, then quieter sometimes. Sierra looked toward the black monitors, as if she could will the image back. Sometimes. They move her. They move all of us. All of who? Celia's breath hitched. Women, children, doctors. Guards who pretend they're nurses. Nurses who pretend they're guards. I don't know anymore. Sierra's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Annika stopped working on the door. Damon was outside with Gray. Damon might be hurt, drugged, trapped. Damon might be the first boy they brought to Eden House. Damon might have other heirs he did not know existed. Damon might belong to the very place he was hunting. And Celia was speaking. Sierra made a choice. Annika, she said, keeping her voice low, record this. Already am. Good. Sierra turned back to the speaker. Celia, listen to me. I need proof it's you. A broken laugh came through the static. You used to tell me the endings before scary parts. Sierra's knees weakened. Annika looked at her once. Sierra swallowed. That's not enough. I stole your red boots in sophomore year and blamed the dog. You cried when Dad sold the lake house, but pretended you had allergies. The last thing I said to you before the retreat was that I finally found people who understood legacy, and you told me legacy was what rich people called rot when they inherited it. Sierra closed her eyes. Celia, not proof for court, proof for the wound. What happened to you? Sierra whispered. I was stupid. No, I was flattered. Celia's voice trembled. They said I mattered. They said I was selected for a leadership fellowship. They said women like us could influence families that shaped countries. They said fertility autonomy, ethical inheritance reform, maternal medicine. All the right words, all the clean words. Sierra pressed a fist to her mouth. The Davenant Foundation retreat. Celia had been so excited. Sierra had mocked the brochure. Celia had called her cynical and kissed her cheek and said, one day you'll have to admit not every powerful person is evil. Sierra had never wanted to be rightless. They took my blood during a wellness screening, Celia continued. Then they isolated me. They told me my profile was rare, that I could help protect women inside the system if I cooperated. Cooperated how? Static. Annika's face tightened. Celia, Sierra said, how? I signed things. Sierra's stomach sank. What things? I thought I was signing confidentiality agreements. Then property structures. Then medical oversight forms. By the time I understood, my name was on enough documents to make me look like staff. Worse than staff. Resident director. Silence. Sierra's heart hardened around the words. You know, I saw the file. I didn't direct anything, Celia said fast. Sierra, I swear to God, I never chose for anyone to be held here. I helped women disappear when I could. I changed dosage logs. I switched samples. I hid messages. Ilara. Another pause. Yes. Sierra's pulse jumped. She's alive. Yes. Pregnant. A thin silence opened. Celia. Yes. The word broke into a sob. Sierra glanced at Annika. Annika's expression had become unreadable. Sierra's voice dropped. Damon's. I don't know. The answer hit the room like a thrown glass. Sierra went cold. What does that mean? It means they have old samples, genetic material, embryos, records from before he understood what they had taken from him. Celia's voice fractured. He was a child, Sierra. Whatever they tell you he did, whatever he became later, Eden House started before he had choices. The rear door clicked again. Annika spun back, gun raised. Still closed. But something was on the other side. Sierra heard it now. A faint scrape. Metal against metal. Celia, Sierra said faster. Is Damon part of Eden House? He is the template. Annika went utterly still. Sierra's skin prickled. Template for what? For the veil response, the bond markers, the F, artillery-linked imprinting, the airline protocols. They studied him first. Then they tried to replicate the response in others. Lucien, other boys. Some survived, some didn't. The scrape outside the door sharpened. Annika moved between Sierra and the exit. Sierra's mouth had gone dry. Celia, how many children? I don't know. Living children. I don't know. Damon's children. The silence, this time, was worse than any answer. Then Celia whispered, at least one. Sierra could not breathe. Neither could Annika, apparently. For the first time since Sierra had met her, the other woman looked shaken in a way no training could conceal. Does Damon know? Sierra asked. No. The word came fast. Certain. Are you sure? If he knew, this island would already be ash. Sierra believed that. God help her, she believed that. The thing about monsters was that sometimes they were made out of ruins no one else wanted to name. Another scrape at the door, then a quiet pop from inside the locking mechanism. Annika fired once. The shot was deafening in the small room. Sierra flinched, ears ringing. The rear door went still. Annika did not lower her gun. We're out of time. Celia's voice sharpened. Sierra, are you in his safe room? Yes. Get out. Gray knows every veil emergency route. Gray is here. I know. Annika looked toward the ceiling speaker. Who is Gray? Celia's breath trembled. Dr. Gree Elena Morvant, Eden House behavioral architect. She designed the ritual stress protocols. Sierra locked onto the name. Spell it. G-R-A, not gray like the color. Gree like a family name. She hates when people get it wrong. Good to know. She's not Octavia's servant, Celia said. She uses Octavia. She uses everyone. What does she want? Completion. Of what? The original veil study. The words meant nothing and everything. Annika's phone, which had shown no signal minutes ago, vibrated once. She glanced down and went rigid. What? Sierra asked. Damon's vitals are spiking. Sierra stared. You track his vitals. Only during active threat. Of course you do. Annika's voice had no patience left. His heart rate just hit 180. Outside the safe room, something heavy struck the rear door. Once, twice, the metal bowed inward. Sierra grabbed the recorder case from the drawer and shoved it into her bag. Celia, where is Alara? Medical wing, if they haven't moved her. Where is Crown Harbor exactly? No maps are accurate. The island has old military tunnels. The dock is bait. Don't come through the dock. How then? The chapel. Annika's head snapped up. What chapel? North Cliff. Old stone ruin. There's a sea cave under it. Low tide access only. When is low tide? Sierra asked. Tonight, 3:40 a.m. Annika checked her watch. That's less than 2 hours. Celia's voice began to break apart. If you come, bring Damon. Sierra froze. You just told me to leave him. I told you to get out because Gree was inside his house. Not because he's the enemy. You said he belongs to Eden House. He does. Static tore through her words. That is why the island will open for him. The rear door slammed again. A thin line of light appeared near the frame. Annika grabbed Sierra's arm. Move. This time Sierra did not object. Annika crossed to the main wall where they had entered. She yanked down a concealed panel, punched in a code, and pulled a manual lever. Nothing happened. Annika, working. Another impact. The rear door groaned. Celia's voice crackled overhead. Sierra, I'm here. If you find me, and I tell you to leave without Alara, don't listen. Sierra's throat closed. Celia, if I say I chose this, don't listen. If I say I'm director, don't listen. If I say I'm protecting the child, don't listen. Her voice broke. They make every cage sound like a choice. Sierra pressed her hand against the wall, as if she could reach through metal and wire and ocean. I'm coming. No, Celia's voice sharpened. Survive first. The speaker went dead. At the same moment, Annika's lever gave. The wall opened. Not fully. Halfway. Enough. Smoke rolled in from the office beyond. Not fire smoke. Chemical, white, odorless, too clean. Annika shoved a filter mask into Sierra's hand. On. Sierra pulled it over her face. Annika put on her own, then pushed Sierra through the opening into Damon's office. The office had become a battlefield, pretending to be a study. One desk overturned. Books scattered. A lamp smashed. The wall screen cracked down the middle. The air carried the faint metallic tang of discharged weapons and something sterile beneath it. No Damon. No Gray. No bodies. That was worse. Annika swept the room with her gun. Damon. No answer. Sierra coughed behind the mask. Where is he? Annika crossed to the doorway and checked the hall. Sierra followed despite the fact that every rational instinct told her to stay behind the woman with training. The portrait hall was wrecked. 2 security officers down, alive but unconscious. 1 intruder zip-tied near the stairs, bleeding from the temple. Another limp against the wall. Helena Vale's portrait hung crooked, a burn mark across the lower frame where Gree had placed whatever device had blanked the cameras. Damon was gone. So was Gree. But on the floor, beneath the portrait lay Damon's black ring. Sierra stopped. The absence of it from his hand felt wrong in a way she had no right to feel. Annika saw it and went pale. No. Sierra crouched and picked it up before Annika could stop her. The ring was heavier than it looked. Old gold, black stone, carved thorns. Warm, though Damon had not been there for minutes. A smear of blood marked one side. Not much. Enough. Annika's voice came tight. Put it down. Sierra looked up. Why? It's keyed. To what? Systems, doors, medical triggers. Some covenant nonsense I don't fully understand. Great, extremely normal jewelry. Sierra, she should put it down. She knew that. But Celia had said, find the black ring. And now Damon's ring sat in her palm, like a key that had been thrown to the floor by someone who knew exactly what it opened. A chime sounded from Damon's office. The cracked wall screen flickered to life. Gree Morvant appeared, not gray in the sense Sierra had imagined from her notes, not a shadowy recruiter in tasteful gloves. She was younger than Octavia, older than Sierra, perhaps early 40s, with pale hair pinned smoothly at the nape of her neck, and a scar dragging from the corner of her mouth to her jaw, as if someone had once tried to cut a secret out of her and failed. Damon sat in a chair behind her, conscious, restrained. His hands were bound to the arms with black bands that looked medical rather than tactical. His shirt was torn at one shoulder. Blood marked his temple. His right hand was bare. The sight struck Sierra with fury, so immediate it startled her. He was not hers to defend. He was not hers at all. Still, anger came. Gree smiled. Hello, Seraphina. Sierra stepped into the office, ring clenched in her fist. Where is my sister? At work. If you hurt her. Yes, yes. You'll expose me, destroy me. Bring law and light, and all those other religious substitutions journalists use after they stop believing in God. Gree's smile widened. I read your article. It was almost good. Sierra's hand tightened around Damon's ring. Where is Damon? Gree glanced back, as if surprised to find him behind her. Here, for now. Damon lifted his head. His eyes found Sierra's through the screen. Even restrained, bleeding, and stripped of his ring, he looked frighteningly present. Sierra, he said, do not come. Gree sighed. Predictable, protective instruction as reflexive self-erasure. We really did train you too well. Damon's gaze did not leave Sierra. Do not bring the ring to the island. Gree's smile sharpened. There, that was what she wanted. Sierra looked down at her closed fist. The ring's thorns pressed into her palm. Gree saw the movement and laughed softly. He always tells women to avoid the only useful thing. Annika stepped beside Sierra, gun lowered but ready. Location. Gree looked at her. Annika Rao, former military police, 6 years attached to Vale Private Security, loyal to the subject despite repeated evidence that the subject's threat profile is increasing. Annika's expression did not change. You read files. I'm intimidated. You should be. Files are the only reason anyone knows who they are. Spoken like someone who has never been loved without paperwork. For the first time, Gree's smile thinned. Sierra almost looked at Annika with admiration. Almost. Damon's voice came through the screen, rougher now. Annika, protocol Helena. Annika froze. Sierra looked at her. What's protocol Helena? Annika did not answer. Gree's eyes lit with interest. Oh, Damon, still sentimental. Annika, Damon repeated. Annika swallowed once. Then she lifted her gun and aimed at the wall screen. Sierra grabbed her arm. Wait. Annika looked at her. Something in her expression made Sierra let go. This was not obedience. This was grief. Annika fired. The screen shattered. The room plunged into silence. Sierra stared at the ruined glass. What the hell? Protocol Helena means no negotiation over Damon's body, blood, or ring, Annika said. Her voice was tight. No hostage exchange. No compliance. No ritual response. So what do we do? Annika turned toward her. We rescue him badly. That sounds like a terrible protocol. It is. Who wrote it? His mother. Sierra looked at the broken screen. Helena Vale, dead, and not dead. Apparently still issuing orders through the ruins of her son's life. The house alarm finally began to sound. Not a shriek. A low, pulsing tone that moved through the bones. Annika touched her earpiece. Sela's Damon taken. Gree Morvant confirmed. Crown Harbor active. Protocol Helena in effect. A pause. Annika's face tightened. I know. Sierra grabbed her bag. We're going to the island. No, we're leaving the house. To go to the island. To regroup. Low tide is in less than 2 hours. Annika's eyes narrowed. How do you know that? Celia Chapel, North Cliff. Sea Cave. For 2 seconds, Annika stared at her. Then she moved. Fast, they went through the house like a pair of fugitives who had not agreed which one was leading. Annika collected weapons, comms, medical supplies, and a small black drive from Damon's office safe. Sierra collected every file she could shove into her bag without slowing them down. Celia's, Eden House, Gree Morvant fragments, the Crown Harbor map, and Damon's ring. She did not mention it. Annika noticed anyway. Do not put that on, she said. Sierra gave her a look. Was that honestly a concern? With Vale artifacts, I try not to assume sanity. Noted. They reached the garage, where 2 SUVs idled and 4 security officers waited. Sila's Crow stood beside the lead vehicle, phone in hand, face carved from bad news. He looked at Sierra once. Journalist, bodyguard, security chief, professional kidnappee tracker. Today, yes. Annika cut in. Gree took Damon alive. Silas's expression did not change, but the air around him did. Condition. Conscious, restrained, head wound, ring removed. Silas closed his eyes for half a second. Sierra saw it then. The ring mattered. Not symbolically, not only. Why is everyone reacting like she removed his heart? Sierra asked. Silas opened his eyes. Because the ring regulates access. To what? Facilities, family systems, some older biometric locks. And Annika looked at Silas. Silas looked at Sierra's fist. Great. No one in this house missed anything. Sierra opened her hand. Damon's ring lay in her palm, black stone, gleaming beneath garage lights. 3 security officers stepped back. Sierra looked at them, seriously. Silas's voice went low. Where did you get that? Floor. Did he give it to you? No. Did Grease see you pick it up? I don't think so. Then she may not know we have it. Excellent. Love being we. Annika took a small, lead-lined pouch from her jacket. Put it in. Sierra hesitated. Silas's gaze sharpened. Now. Sierra dropped the ring into the pouch. The garage seemed to breathe again. What does it do to people? She asked. Silas sealed the pouch. Depends who wears it. I'm tired of answers that sound like haunted house warnings. Then stop standing in haunted houses, Annika said. Sierra did not have an answer for that. Silas turned to Annika. Team. 2 wounded. None dead. 3 intruders captured. 1 unknown escaped with Gree and Damon through the East Service Tunnel. Tunnel was sealed. It was. Silas's jaw tightened. Sierra looked between them. This house has more back doors than a corrupt senator. Silas ignored that. Damon ordered you not to come. Yes, Annika said. And we're going. Good. Sierra blinked. Silas opened the SUV door. Argue in the car. They moved. The convoy left the townhouse without headlights for the first block, then split into 3 separate routes through the sleeping city. Sierra sat in the back seat between Annika and a locked equipment case, with Silas in the front passenger seat, and a driver who looked like he had been grown in a government lab for controlled violence. No one spoke for 5 minutes. That suited Sierra until it did not. Damon said he was at Eden House as a child, she said. Silas did not turn. Yes. You knew. Yes. Does everyone in this car answer like him? Annika said, occupational hazard. What happened there? Silas looked out at the wet streets. I don't know all of it. Convenient. It is not convenient for him. The answer landed harder than Sierra wanted. She looked down at her hands. A faint indentation marked her palm where the ring's carved thorns had pressed. He doesn't know about the child, she said. The car went silent. Sierra looked up. Annika's face had gone still. Silas turned then. Slowly. What child? Sierra's stomach sank. Right. Celia had told her inside the room. The screens died. Then everything had gone to hell. Celia said, there's at least 1 child connected to Damon's samples. She said he doesn't know. Silas swore. Not loudly. Worse, like a man whose worst tactical scenario had just found a basement underneath it. Annika's voice was quiet. That will destroy him. Sierra looked at her. Not kill him. Not distract him. Destroy him. Why? She asked. I mean, yes, obviously horrifying. But why specifically? Silas faced forward again. Because Damon's father used to say heirs are proof that men become property after death. Sierra waited. Silas continued, voice flat. Damon was raised to believe any child connected to him would be owned, tested, traded, or used. He built his life around preventing that. Alara's pregnancy. Yes, and now another child. Not another, Annika said. Possibly first. The word turned the air cold. First, the first heir they made from him. Damon had been 7 or 8. Sira felt ill. We need the truth before he hears it from Gree, Silas said. She already knows. Yes, which means she will use it at the worst possible moment. The SUV sped onto a private airfield road. Sira looked out the window at hangars, emerging from rain and darkness. Where are we going? Helicopter to Maine, Silas said. Low tide is in less than 2 hours. We'll make it. I get motion sick. No, you don't. Sira stared at him. I beg your pardon. Silas held up a thin folder. You've embedded on fishing vessels 3 times, flown into 2 hurricane zones, and once threw up only after drinking gas station tequila in Corpus Christi. I dislike this family's file culture. We're not family. Then stop being creepy together. Annika handed her a small motion sickness packet. Preventative. Sira took it because pride was useful only when it did not interfere with biology. The helicopter waited inside the hangar, sleek and black, and obscene in the way Billionaire emergency equipment always was. As they boarded, Sira's phone vibrated for the first time since the house. No signal bars. Still, a message appeared. Unknown sender. She will tell HIM, the child's name. Attached was an image. A small bedroom. White walls. Iron bed. A child's drawing taped above a desk. A black ring. A house on an island. And 4 stick figures. One labeled Mama. One labeled Aunt C. One labeled E. One labeled D. Sira's breath caught. Annika leaned over. What? Sira showed her. The helicopter rotors began turning. Silas looked back, and for the first time, real fear cracked his hard expression. D, Sira said over the rising noise. Damon. No one answered. The next image loaded. A close-up of a child's hand holding a black crayon. The caption read, Eden says her father is coming home. Chapter 4, the second match. Eden says her father is coming home. The helicopter lifted into the storm, with the message burning in Sira's hand. Below them, New York fractured into black water, glass towers, and wet light. Above them, the sky was a bruise. Rain struck the windows hard enough to blur the city into something painted and melting, and the rotors beat the air with a violence Sira felt in her bones. She stared at the photograph until the child's hand became all she could see. Small fingers, black crayon, a drawing of a ring, a house on an island, 4 stick figures, Mama, Aunt C, Lee, D, Damon. No one said the name. That was how Sira knew everyone had thought it. Silas sat across from her in a harness, tablet braced on one knee, jaw clenched hard enough to crack. Annika was beside Sira, checking weapons and comms with mechanical precision. 2 Vale security officers occupied the rear, quiet and grim. No one looked comfortable. No one looked surprised enough. That bothered Sira more than panic would have. She lifted the phone. Who sent this? Sila's did not look up. Unknown route. It bypassed your carrier and hit the device directly. Meaning someone has access to your phone at hardware level. Sira laughed once, sharp and humorless. Great, excellent. I love learning that in a helicopter over a storm. Annika held out her hand. Give it to me. No, Sira. No, my sister's voice came through my recorder. This came through my phone. Everyone keeps wanting me to hand over the only lines I have to people I'm trying to find. Annika's expression remained controlled, but not cold. Every line is also a hook. I know. Then stop swallowing them. Sira's fingers tightened around the phone. The photograph stayed open. Aunt C. Celia. Eden. The child's name was Eden. Of course it was. Of course, the people who built cages out of medicine and inheritance had named a child after the island, the facility. The myth, they thought, excused the garden's serpent. Or maybe Celia had named her. That thought hurt differently. Celia said at least one child, Sira said. Silas's eyes lifted. She hated the weight of his attention. It was too much like Damon S., though older, less elegant, more openly tired. Men like Silas did not look at people. They measured breach points. She said he doesn't know, Sira continued. She said Damon was the template. No one replied. Sira looked at Annika. You knew about the template part. Annika's hand paused over a magazine. Not in those words. Try your words. Silas answered instead. Damon was taken to Eden House as a child after his mother tried to flee the covenant. Sira's stomach tightened. How long was he there? 3 months confirmed, Silas said. Possibly longer. Possibly. Records were altered. Of course they were. Annika looked toward the window. Rain streaked the glass like claw marks. He remembers rooms, white walls, cold floors, women speaking behind glass, a chapel bell, his mother screaming once. Sira went still. The helicopter's roar filled the space where a person's reaction should have been. She had wanted facts. Now that she had them, she wanted to throw them back. Damon Vale as a child, 7 or 8, in the first version of the place they were flying toward. Not the monster king. Not the billionaire who ought prisons and baited journalists. A boy without calendars, without choices, becoming the template for men and women who would later vanish into polished language. It did not absolve him. She clung to that because anger was easier to breathe through. It did not absolve the signed activation request. The files. The years of knowing enough to suspect and not enough to stop it. The way his power had still failed Alara, Gerald, Celia, but it made the story less clean. Sira hated unclean stories. They were usually the true ones. Did they take samples from him there? She asked. Silas's gaze dropped back to the tablet. We assumed they took blood, tissue, neurological scans, endocrine data, reproductive material. Annika's mouth tightened. He was a child. I know what I'm asking. The helicopter pitched. Sira grabbed the edge of her seat with one hand, phone in the other. Silas's voice stayed flat. There were surgical notes in Helena's files. Most were destroyed. Some suggested experimental preservation. Sira felt cold. That is a very clean phrase for something obscene. Yes, Silas said. Does Damon know? He knows enough to be afraid of not knowing. That landed. Sira looked down at the child's drawing. Day, a father coming home, a man who had built his adult life around refusing to create heirs, had possibly had one stolen from him before he was old enough to understand what had been taken. And if Gree knew, she would use it. A second message appeared on Sira's phone. No buzz this time. No sound. Just words replacing the image. Ask why ELARA was chosen if CELIA was already inside. Sira stared. Annika leaned close. What? Sira showed her. Silas cursed under his breath. Answer it, Sira said. Annika looked at Silas. Sira's patience snapped. Do not do the silent bodyguard eye conversation thing. Answer the question. Silas shut the tablet cover halfway. The covenant rarely chooses one path. That is not an answer. It is, you just don't like it. I like almost nothing about this aircraft. Silas's mouth did not move, but the faint irritation in his eyes suggested he understood why Damon had kept speaking to her longer than was wise. He said, Alara was chosen through the Ashcroft Vale Air Clause. Legal bloodline continuity. Public ritual recognition. She is tied to old family legitimacy. And Celia, different vector. Sira stiffened. Do not call my sister a vector. Silas accepted the correction with a brief nod. Different function. Worse, different role. Try again. Annika stepped in. Alara legitimizes the airline under covenant law. Celia may have been used to manage, hide, or transfer biological material inside Eden House. If Celia's name owns the shell company, and if she's listed as resident director, she could sign documents the covenant wanted outside Octavia's direct control. Sira absorbed that. So Alara is the public bride. Annika's face tightened, possibly. And Celia is the paper shield. Possibly. And the child. No one answered. Sira looked at the message again. Ask why ELARA was chosen if CELIA was already inside. The question was not only about legality. It was about biology. She felt the shape before she had words for it. Alara may have been pregnant. Celia may have been inside Eden House for years. Damon's genetic material may have been preserved. At least one child existed. The Covenant wanted legitimacy, control, and more than one route to an heir. "Oh God," Sira said. Annika looked at her. What? They didn't choose Alara because Celia failed. They chose Alara because Celia worked. Silas's eyes sharpened. Sira turned the phone toward them, though the message had not changed. "Celia's name owns the facility. She's listed as resident director. There's a child named Eden who may be connected to Damon. That means they already had biological proof of concept. But Celia isn't old blood, not the way Alara is. Celia can hide the child. Alara can legitimize the dynasty." The helicopter seemed louder after she finished. Annika said, "That tracks." Sira hated that phrase. "Do not say that like we're talking about logistics." "We are talking about logistics," Annika said quietly. "That's what makes it monstrous." Sira looked away. Out the window, the last of the city had vanished. Only darkness, water, and storm remained. Her phone changed again. This time, a document appeared. A medical table. Rows of names. Most redacted. One line visible. Black CELIA-MARA. Secondary match. Veil response compatible maternal carrier. Conditional. Beneath it, VOSS, ELARA-MAREN, primary match. ASHCROFT veil legal activation, maternal carrier. Priority. Sira's vision tunneled. Maternal carrier. Not woman, not sister, not lawyer, not person. Carrier. She shoved the phone at Annika before she could throw it across the helicopter. "Copy that, now." Annika plugged in a cable and cloned the screen capture to a hardened drive. "Done." Sira's hands shook. She curled them into fists. "Are there others?" she asked. Silas opened his tablet again and entered something. "Likely. Women. Yes. Children." A pause. "Yes." The word emptied the air. Sira closed her eyes. Celia had said women, children, doctors, guards who pretended they were nurses. Sira had imagined horror. The mind did that, filling dark rooms with shapes. But now the shapes had categories, documents, functions. A medical facility with children whose existence might be evidence of crimes. No court would know how to prosecute without vomiting first. Damon Vale wanted Alara. Sira wanted Celia. But Eden House was bigger than both. She opened her eyes. "If we go in, we don't only extract Damon." Silas looked at her. "Mission priority is Damon." "No, this is not a debate. It is now." Annika's attention moved between them. Sira leaned forward against the harness. "If there are women and children on that island, we do not go in. Grab your billionaire and leave them there." Silas's face hardened. "If we overextend, no one leaves. If we underextend, you become exactly what Celia warned me about." Silas's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let it hit." Sira continued. "Damon belongs to Eden House, she said. Maybe because he opens doors. Maybe because his body was the first map. Maybe because his ring is a key. But if all you do is rescue him and protect the Vale asset, then congratulations. You just proved her right. Annika's voice was quiet. He would not leave children there. Silas did not answer. Sierra looked at him. Would he? Silas's jaw tightened. No. Then plan like he's not here to say it. The helicopter rocked hard in the wind. For a moment, only the pilot's clipped voice came over the headset. Adjusting route, storm band east. Visibility poor, but manageable. Silas opened the tablet again. Primary objective remains live extraction of Damon Vale. Secondary objective, confirm Alara Voss and Celia Black. Tertiary, identify minors and non-combatants for staged extraction if feasible. Not good enough. It is what a team of 6 can do without getting everyone killed. Sierra opened her mouth. Annika cut in. He's right. Sierra turned on her. You too. Annika's eyes were steady. Children require transport, medical support, shelter, and clean custody protocols. If we lift them out with no plan, we risk delivering traumatized minors into police, courts, or agencies the Covenant has already compromised. The answer shut Sierra down because it was not indifference. It was logistics again. Monstrous logistics, yes. Necessary ones. Annika continued. We identify. We preserve evidence. We get a live witness out. Then we trigger a larger extraction with Mara's legal firewall and independent medical teams. That is how we keep them from disappearing into another system. Sierra swallowed. Rage wanted simplicity. Rescue everyone now. Burn the island. Name the villains. Carry the children into dawn. Reality was uglier. It always demanded paperwork after the fire. Fine, she said. But if a child is in front of me, I'm not leaving her because she's tertiary. Silas looked at her for a long moment, then nodded once. Understood. A third message appeared. This one loaded as a photograph. Sierra's phone showed a hospital-style room with soft yellow lighting. A woman stood beside a window overlooking black water. Dark hair. Silver gown replaced by a pale robe. One hand on her stomach. Ilara, alive. Her face was turned partly away, but the expression was clear enough. Not captive in the simple sense. Listening, thinking, planning. Beside her, sitting cross-legged on the floor, was a little girl with black hair and a crayon in her hand. Eden. Sierra's breath caught. The child looked maybe 5, too young to carry the weight of any of this, too real now to be a theory. The caption beneath the photograph read, "The first daughter knows the second mother." Annika copied it immediately. Silas stared at the image. His face went ashen. What? Sierra asked. No answer. She leaned closer to the phone. The little girl's face was angled up toward Alara. The image was grainy, but visible enough. Dark hair, delicate chin, serious mouth, eyes that looked too large for her face. Sierra looked at Silas again. What? Silas's voice changed. She looks like Helena. Annika went still. Damon's mother, Sierra asked. Yes. The helicopter seemed to drop a foot. Sierra gripped the harness. How is that possible? Silas did not answer. Annika did. If the child was made from preserved Damon samples and selected maternal genetic material from the Vale or Ashcroft line, Sierra stared. Maternal genetic material from who? Annika's face told her before the words came. Helena's line, she said. Sierra went cold. That sounds incestuous. No, Annika's voice was sharp, immediate. Not in the way you mean, but genetically manipulated lineage selection, possibly using preserved familial material, edited embryos, or donor substitution. We do not know. It's still vile. Yes. Sierra looked at the child again. Eden. He first daughter, the second mother. The phrase twisted around Alara like a noose. They want Alara to mother her, Sierra said. Silas's face hardened. Or to legitimize her. Both. Another question rose, colder. If Eden exists, Sierra said, why do they need Alara's pregnancy? Silas looked back to the tablet. Succession conflict. Annika said, a first child made through hidden protocols may not be recognized by old covenant law. A child carried by Alara after ring recognition might be. Sierra's stomach rolled. So Eden is proof, but Alara's baby is legitimacy. Possibly, Annika said. Possibly. Sierra was beginning to hate that word more than vector. A headset crackled from the pilot. Approaching main airspace. Weather worsening. Landing at private strip in 17. Silas checked his watch. Low tide in 83 minutes. Sierra looked at him. Can we make the chapel? Yes. Alive. Likely. Your optimism is overwhelming. Annika handed Sierra a compact vest. Put this on. Sierra stared. Is that body armor? Yes. I'm a journalist. You're currently an extraction liability with a hostile signal device and direct emotional involvement. I liked body armor better. Put it on. Sierra put it on. It smelled like nylon, metal, and other people's bad decisions. Annika adjusted the straps with efficient hands. Too tight. No. Can you breathe? Yes. Can you move? Sierra rolled her shoulders. Enough. Annika held out a small earpiece. This is short-range encrypted. If you lose contact, go quiet and stay where you are unless staying means capture. Very reassuring. Capture is worse. I gathered. Annika's gaze stayed on hers a beat longer. If someone uses Celia's voice to direct you away from the team, confirm with a memory only you would know. I did that already. Do it every time. Sierra's throat tightened. You think they can fake her? I think they have had 3 years to learn her. That landed like a physical blow. Sierra nodded once. The helicopter began descending. Rain struck harder. The world outside the window became runaway lights and dark trees, then the jolt of landing. The moment the rotors slowed, doors opened, and cold sea air knifed inside. They moved fast. No hangar lights. No airport staff. Just 2 black vehicles waiting on the private strip, and a third team already loading gear. The Maine night smelled of salt, pine, fuel, and storm. Sierra had reported from war zones that felt less hostile than that stretch of wet tarmac. Silas issued orders without raising his voice. Team Alpha with me through the chapel route. Team Beta holds extraction point at West Road. Annika, Sierra stays with you. If she bolts, sedate her. Sierra stopped. Excuse me. Annika sighed. I'm not sedating you. Comforting, unless you make it the ethical choice. Less comforting. Silas did not look amused. No phones past this point unless shielded. Sierra looked at her phone. The screen was black now. Dead maybe, or waiting. She slid it into the copper pouch Annika gave her. If Celia contacts again, we'll know, Annika said. They transferred to the lead SUV. The drive took 20 minutes and felt longer because no one filled the silence with lies. The road narrowed, then narrowed again. Pines pressed in on both sides, black needles lashing under wind. At one point, the vehicle passed a rusted sign for Crown Harbor Historical Preserve. Private property. No trespassing. Prosecution enforced. Sierra almost laughed, as if prosecution had ever troubled the people who needed the sign. They stopped half a mile from the North Cliff and continued on foot. The storm had turned the trail into black mud. Sierra's boots slipped twice. Annika caught her once by the back of the vest and hauled her upright without comment. Ahead, Silas moved like something built for bad terrain, one hand near his weapon, the other holding a small red-lensed light angled toward the ground. The chapel appeared out of the rain like a ruin dragged from a nightmare. Stone walls half collapsed. No roof. A bell tower with no bell. Ivy and salt crust on old gray rock. Beyond it, the cliff fell into darkness and the roar of the Atlantic. Sierra stopped at the threshold. A memory moved through her, though it was not hers. Chapel bell. Damon as a child. His mother screaming once. She looked toward the sea and wondered what kind of place made a little boy remember sound more than faces. Silas crouched near a broken section of floor, cleared wet leaves and stone fragments, and found a rusted iron ring set into a slab. Here, he said. 2 security officers helped lift it. A narrow opening appeared. Cold air rose from below, wet and mineral heavy. A sea cave. Annika clipped a line to Sierra's harness. You slip, I pull. You panic, I pull. You argue at the edge, I pull. Do you ever ask nicely? No. Refreshing, they descended. The stair carved into the cliff was ancient or made to look ancient. Either way, it was treacherous. Water slicked the stone. The roar of the sea grew louder with every step until it filled Sierra's skull. Her fear sharpened, not because she feared death exactly, but because the island was suddenly real beneath her feet. Celia was here. Maybe Ilara, Damon, Eden. The cave opened below the chapel, a black mouth facing the tide. Water surged through the lower rocks, but the main tunnel remained exposed, just as Celia had said. Low tide, less than an hour of access. Silas's team moved in formation. Sierra followed Annika through the dark. The tunnel turned inward after 20 yards, away from the sea, climbing slightly. The stone changed from natural cave to carved passage. Old military, Celia had said. The walls bore faded, stenciled numbers and rusted brackets where cables had once run. Then came the first door. Steel, no handle, only a circular plate at hand height. Silas looked at Annika. Annika removed the lead-lined pouch and took out Damon's ring. The black stone seemed to drink the flashlight beam. Tell me this isn't the part where the haunted jewelry opens the evil island, Sierra said. It is exactly that part, Annika said. She pressed the ring to the plate. Nothing. Silas's mouth tightened. Annika tried again. Still nothing. Sierra looked closer. Maybe it needs him. It needs the ring, Silas said. Or a wearer. Annika's eyes cut to her. No. Sierra lifted both hands. I didn't volunteer. Good. Silas took the ring and pressed his thumb against the inner band. Then the plate. The door remained sealed. A small red light blinked once. Rejected. Sierra exhaled. Excellent. Love a judgmental door. Annika took the ring back, frowning. It may be bioresponsive. To Damon. Yes. Then we're stuck. A sound came from Sierra's pouch. Her phone. Everyone froze. Sierra pulled it out slowly. The screen glowed, despite no signal. Text appeared. The witness can open what the air cannot. Annika read over her shoulder. No. Sierra looked at the ring. No, Annika repeated. Silas's expression had gone unreadable. Sierra laughed under her breath. Everyone saying no around me is becoming a pattern. Annika stepped closer. You do not know what that ring does. I know what this door does if it stays shut. Sierra, Celia said Damon belongs to the island. The island opens for him. But now this says the witness can open what the air cannot. My name was witness vector on your board. Gray expected me. Or Celia expected me. Either way, I'm already in the sentence. That does not mean you put on the ring. Sierra looked at the black stone. Find the black ring. Get out. Bring Damon. Do not bring the ring. Every instruction contradicted the last, because every person giving them wanted different parts of the truth to survive. She held out her hand. Annika did not give it to her. Silas said, "If we do not open this door in the next 3 minutes, we lose the tide window." Annika's jaw clenched. "You're supporting this." "I am stating timing." "I hate both of you," Sira said. She took the ring from Annika. The gold was cold now, heavier than before. Up close, she saw a tiny engraving inside the band. Not letters, coordinates, symbols. No, names layered so small they looked like scratches. She slid it onto her right index finger. The fit was wrong, too large. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the ring tightened. Sira gasped. Not pain exactly. Pressure. The carved thorns warmed against her skin, and something moved through the metal like a pulse. Seeking an answer, her body did not know how to give. Annika grabbed her wrist. "Take it off." "Wait." "Sira." The steel door clicked. Once, then the circular plate lit black-blue beneath the ring. A scanner moved over her hand, over her wrist, up the line of her arm. Light swept across her face. A mechanical voice sounded from the wall. "Witness recognized." Sila's went still. Annika's grip loosened. Sira stared at the door. "Why does this thing know me?" The voice continued. Second match confirmed. No one breathed. The words moved through the tunnel like poison. Second match. Not witness. Not visitor. Match. Sira tried to pull the ring off. It would not move. Annika swore, "Hold still." The door began to open. Sira's phone lit again in her free hand. A new document loaded. Her own face stared back at her. Not from tonight, from 3 years ago, outside the courthouse after Celia vanished. Eyes red, mouth set. Hair pinned back with a pen because she had forgotten a clip. Under the photograph, SCRAPHINA black, secondary compatibility index. High. Recommended use. Leverage witness, alternate carrier, destabilization of veil subject. Sira's stomach dropped out. The tunnel blurred. She heard Annika say her name, heard Sila's curse, heard the sea behind them, roaring like an animal. Then a speaker activated beyond the opening door. Gree Morven's voice, smooth and pleased, filled the passage. "Welcome to Eden House, Miss Black. We have been waiting to see which sister he would choose next." Chapter 5, the broadcast. "Welcome to Eden House, me. SS Black. We have been waiting to see which sister he would choose next." The tunnel door opened with the soft obedience of a well-fed monster. Sira did not move. For 1 suspended second, the world became the ring on her finger. It had tightened to fit her, not enough to hurt, enough to declare intent. Old gold pressed warm against her skin. The black stone drank the light from Annika's flashlight. The carved thorns felt alive in the most horrifying, irrational way, as if the metal had not been made, but grown around all the wrong things. Blood, inheritance, records, screams, names that rich families mistook for law. Second match confirmed. Alternate carrier. destabilization of veil subject. Sira stared at the document, glowing on her phone. Her face, her name, her body converted into strategy. For 3 years, she had been hunting the machine that took Celia. Now the machine had turned its face toward her and said, "You were never outside." Annika's hand closed around Sira's wrist. Firm, grounding, not restraining. "Sira," she said, "look at me." Sira did. Annika's face was close, rain still clinging to her lashes, expression stripped of every trace of dry humor. "You are not a match. You are not a carrier. You are not a function. That is their language, not your identity." The words hit hard. Too hard. Sira swallowed, and her throat felt lined with salt. "I know." "No," Annika said. "You will know later. Right now, repeat it." Sira would have snapped at anyone else. She almost snapped at Annika. Then she felt the ring pulse again, saw the tunnel ahead waiting open, heard Gree's voice still echoing in the air like perfume overwrought, and realized Annika was not offering comfort. She was handing Sira a weapon. Sira's voice came out rough. "I am not a match." Again, "I am not a carrier." Again, "I am not a function." Annika released her wrist. Silas watched from beside the open door, face carved out of urgency and something darker. He had not interrupted. He understood combat in more than one language. Sira looked down at the ring. "Get it off." Annika took a small tube from her kit, slicked Sira's finger with oil, and tried to twist the ring loose. It did not move. Silas stepped closer. "We need to proceed." Annika's gaze cut to him. "She is wearing an active covenant artifact that just classified her as a compatible target, and we are standing inside a tide cave with less than an hour before seawater blocks extraction." Sira closed her fist. The ring warmed further. Her stomach rolled. "Stop talking like I'm not standing here." Both of them went silent. Good. She needed that silence. Needed one clean second that belonged to her, and not to Damon, Celia, Alara, Eden, Gree, the Covenant, or the old gold tightening around her finger. She looked through the open door. Beyond it stretched a corridor that did not belong to any ruin. White walls, motion lights, steel seams, security glass. The island had hidden a facility beneath the chapel and cliff, and the facility looked disturbingly calm. Clean floors, no screams, no blood. That was the first rule of powerful evil: keep surfaces washable. Sira slid her phone into the shielded pouch. "We go." Annika's jaw tightened. "If you feel anything strange from the ring." "I already feel strange from the ring." "Stranger." "I'll use adjectives." Silas signaled the team forward. They entered Eden House. The corridor smelled faintly of antiseptic, salt air, and something floral underneath. Not burned sugar, not Gree's perfume. Something softer, almost maternal, which made Sira want to tear the ventilation system out of the ceiling. The first 30 yards were empty. That felt wrong. Facilities like this should have alarms, guards, doors slamming, panicked staff wiping drives. Instead, Eden House let them walk, lights blooming ahead, and dying behind them like the building was breathing around their intrusion. Annika moved at Sierra's left. Sila's led with 2 officers. The remaining security stayed behind to hold the sea cave entrance and monitor the tide. Sierra kept her ringed hand curled into a fist, not because she wanted to hide it, because some part of her feared what else it might open. A screen embedded in the wall flickered on as they passed. Sierra's own face appeared. Not now. Older footage. Her first television interview after Celia vanished. She was standing outside a courthouse in a black coat, refusing to cry, while a male anchor asked whether her investigation into elite foundations had become personal. On the screen, past Sierra answered, "Every system becomes personal when it starts eating people." The footage froze. Gree's voice came through a hidden speaker. "You were always the better sister for confrontation. Celia wanted belonging. You wanted war." Sierra stopped. Annika touched her shoulder. "Don't answer." Sierra looked at the camera in the wall. "Celia wanted to be useful," Sierra said. "People like you hunt that." Silas exhaled through his nose. "Apparently we're answery." "Angie." Gree laughed softly through the speaker. Sharp, angry, structurally resistant to authority, but profoundly vulnerable to family leverage. Secondary match profiles are rarely this elegant. "Keep talking," Sierra said. "I love hearing villains narrate admissible evidence. Still thinking like courts are churches. No, courts are rooms. Evidence is a key. I collect keys." The lights ahead turned red. A door unlocked at the end of the corridor. Gree's voice warmed, "Then collect." Sila's held up a fist. Everyone stopped. Annika stepped in front of Sierra. "Trap." "Obviously," Sierra said. Silas glanced back. "You are not making it easier to protect you." "Then stop making protection sound like a group project where I don't get a vote." The door at the end opened. No guards emerged. No gas. No gunfire. Only music. Soft, tinny, almost cheerful. A lullaby. Sierra's stomach tightened. She knew that song. Celia used to hum it when she babysat the neighbor's twins in high school. She hated the actual lyrics and made up ridiculous ones about tax fraud and mermaids. Sierra had pretended to be too old to laugh and laughed anyway. The melody drifted down the corridor from the open room. Annika's voice lowered. "Sierra, my sister is in there. Or a recording. Yes. Or a lure. Yes." Sierra looked at Silas. "This facility wanted us to come through the chapel. It opened for the ring. It identified me. It has been hurting us since the door. So tell me the professional answer, Crow. Do we refuse every room until we run out of tide? Or do we choose which trap gives us information?" Silas held her stare for 1 second. Then he turned to his men. "Thermal." One officer checked a handheld device. 2 signatures inside, one adult, one small, no weapons visible, one heat source in the upper corner, likely camera equipment. Sierra's heart slammed. One adult, one small. Eden. Silas looked at Annika. You enter first. I cover. Sierra stays behind you. Sierra nodded, before anyone could tell her not to argue. They moved. The room beyond the door was not a cell. It was worse. A child's bedroom. White walls, soft yellow lamps, a small iron bed, shelves lined with books, a desk covered in crayons and paper. Too clean, too curated. A nursery designed by committee. The kind of room adults built when they wanted to prove a child was cared for without asking whether she was free. A little girl sat at the desk, black hair loose around her shoulders, bare feet tucked under the chair, a crayon in one hand. She turned when they entered. Sierra stopped breathing. Eden looked younger in person. 5, maybe 6. Her face was small and serious, her eyes dark and wide beneath straight brows. She was not identical to Damon. That would have been too easy, too cinematic. But there was something in the shape of her focus, the stillness with which she measured strangers, the way fear did not show on her face, even though her fingers had gone tight around the crayon. A little girl taught not to waste expression. Sierra felt something inside her crack. Beside the bed stood Celia Black, alive, thinner, paler, hair cut to her shoulders, wearing a cream cardigan over medical scrubs, as if someone had tried to make her look soft after turning her into documentation. Her face was older than Sierra's memory by more than 3 years, but it was Celia, her sister. Sierra moved. Annika caught her with one arm. Wait. Sierra nearly fought her. Then she saw Celia shake her head once. Barely. No. Sierra stopped. Celia's eyes filled. Not with relief, with warning. Sierra, she said. Her voice was real in the room. No static, no speaker. Sierra's own voice failed. She had planned so many speeches. Accusations, apologies, questions, fury. She had imagined finding Celia in a hospital bed, in a locked room, in a grave. Never standing beside a child, named Eden in a staged bedroom under a camera, mouthing caution with her eyes, while her sister stood 6 feet away with a cursed ring on her hand. Celia looked at Annika, then Silas. You shouldn't be here. That seems to be the island's official greeting, Sierra managed. A sob broke through Celia's face and vanished just as fast. Eden climbed down from the chair. Every adult in the room went still. The little girl looked at Sierra's hand, at Damon's ring. Are you the witness? Eden asked. Sierra's throat tightened. No child should say witness like it was a bedtime category. I'm Sierra, she said. Eden studied her. Aunt C said Sierra tells the truth even when people hate it. Sierra's eyes burned. She looked at Celia. Aunt C. Celia's mouth trembled. It was easier than explaining. Explaining what? Celia looked at the camera in the corner. Sierra followed her gaze. A black lens watched the room. Gray, of course. Silas lifted his weapon and aimed at the camera. No, Celia said sharply. Everyone froze. Eden flinched at Celia's tone. Celia lowered her voice immediately. No, if you break it, they trigger lockdown. Annika's eyes narrowed. What kind? Medical. Wing seals. Nursery-level seals. Damon's room seals. Damon. Sierra stepped forward. Where is he? Celia pressed her lips together. Celia. Her sister looked at Eden. The child answered instead. Father is in the remembering room. The phrase moved through Sierra like ice. Annika went pale. Silas's voice dropped. Where? Eden pointed to the wall behind her. Not a door. A wall. Celia closed her eyes. Eden, sweetheart. He came home, Eden said, still looking at the ring on Sierra's hand. Dr. Gree said he had to remember before the broadcast. Sierra went cold. What broadcast? Celia looked at her now. There it was. The terror. The Gala Network, Celia said. Covenant houses. Private channels. Selected media leaks. Gree is going to broadcast Damon from the remembering room with Alara beside him. Why? Sierra asked. Celia's face crumpled. Because she wants him to claim the child and Alara's baby in front of witnesses. Annika swore softly. Silas moved toward the wall Eden had indicated. Open it. Celia stepped in front of him. You can't. Move. No, her voice broke but held. The room opens only from central control or with active veil recognition. Silas looked at Sierra's hand. The ring tightened. Sierra felt it. Don't, Celia said. Sierra looked at her. You know what this thing does. I know enough. Does it open the wall? Maybe. Then move. Celia shook her head. It won't recognize you for his room unless the system accepts you as his match. Sierra's stomach turned. Second match confirmed. Alternate carrier. Destabilization of veil subject. Annika stepped closer. No. Sierra looked at her. You're saying no a lot tonight. Because you keep approaching traps built specifically for your body. That sentence is accurate and disgusting. Yes. Eden approached Sierra quietly. Annika shifted, but Sierra lifted a hand. The little girl stopped just outside arm's reach and looked up with Damon's awful stillness. Did you bring him back? Eden asked. Sierra crouched slowly, so she was closer to the child's height. Who? My father. The word hurt, though Sierra could not have said why. Maybe because Eden did not sound happy. She sounded like a child reciting something adults had built around her. Damon is here, Sierra said carefully. I know the house changed. Sierra glanced at Celia. Celia whispered, she feels system shifts. Door access, lighting patterns, security modes. They trained her to read the facility. Sierra looked back at Eden. That must be scary. Eden considered that. It's useful. God, Sierra's chest ached. That doesn't mean it isn't scary. For the first time, the child's expression shifted. A small uncertainty, a crack in the training. Then Eden lifted her hand and touched the ring on Sierra's finger. The room lights flickered. Annika moved. Eden, don't. Too late. The wall behind the bed lit, with a thin black-blue seam. The ring burned hot. Sierra gasped. Eden did not. She held the ring with both small hands and said calmly, "Witness and daughter request passage." The wall opened. Celia made a broken sound. Silas moved immediately. Annika pulled Sierra back, checking her hand. The ring had gone cold again, but red marks had risen around the carved thorns. Eden looked through the new doorway. "They're making him remember now," she said. "Who taught you that phrase?" Sierra asked. "Dr. Gree." Sierra stood. "I am going to ruin that woman." Celia grabbed her arm. The contact nearly broke both of them. Sierra looked down at her sister's hand on her sleeve. Alive, warm, shaking. For 1 second, the mission disappeared beneath the impossible fact of Celia touching her. Then Celia whispered, "If Damon sees Eden before he's oriented, it could break him." Sierra looked toward the hidden passage. "What does that mean?" "It means Gree will use shock, guilt, and the ring response to force a public claim." "Claim how?" Celia swallowed. "She wants him to say Eden is his daughter and Alara's baby is his heir, on broadcast, in covenant language." Sierra understood enough now to feel the trap close. If he says it, they own the children under internal law. "Not legally," Celia said, "but enough to trigger succession protocols, asset freezes, custody claims, medical control, relocation orders." "Paper chains," Sierra said. "Yes." Sierra looked at Eden. The little girl had returned to her desk and picked up the black crayon again, as if opening secret doors had been only another lesson. "No, absolutely not." Sierra turned to Silas. "We stopped the broadcast." Silas nodded. "Central control. Damon first," Annika said. "If he's the broadcast," Sierra said, "those are the same mission." Celia's grip tightened on her arm. "Sierra, I need to tell you something before you see him." Sierra looked at her sister's face. There were 1,000 things there. Fear, shame, love, warning, the wreckage of 3 years. "What?" Celia glanced at Eden. The child was listening. Of course she was. Celia lowered her voice anyway. "They used my signature to authorize transfer. RS. They used my name on the shell company. They used my voice to send messages. Some of what you find will look like I helped them." "Did you?" Celia flinched. Sierra regretted the question immediately and did not take it back. Celia deserved the dignity of being asked the truth, not handed forgiveness, because Sierra needed her sister clean. "I helped some women move from one wing to another," Celia said. "I thought I was moving them away from procedures. Sometimes I was. Sometimes they lied to me. I altered records. I signed forms. I cooperated when I thought refusing would hurt Eden or Alara. Her eyes filled. I survived badly. Sira felt the words enter her chest and stay there. I survived badly. There was no easy answer to that. No clean hug. No instant absolution. No headline that could hold both harm and captivity in the same line without flattening one. Sira covered Celia's hand with hers. "I'm angry," she said. Celia nodded, tears spilling. "I'm so angry, I can't feel the bottom of it." "I know, but I came for you." Celia broke then. Silently, Sira wanted to pull her sister into her arms and hold her until 3 years closed like a wound. Instead, the facility lights flashed red. A low tone sounded. Celia jerked back. They know the door opened. Silas moved into the passage. "Go." Annika looked at Celia. "Can you carry the child if needed?" Celia wiped her face. "Yes." Eden stood. "I can walk." No one corrected her. That hurt too. They entered the hidden passage. It sloped downward, narrow and white-lit. The walls lined with glass panels that could turn opaque at the press of a switch. Behind one transparent section, Sira glimpsed a medical room with 3 empty chairs bolted to the floor. Behind another, a nursery with 4 unmade beds. Behind a third, a storage wall of files, vials, and old-fashioned ledgers. Her journalist brain tried to catalog everything. Her human brain wanted to burn it. Halfway down the passage, a screen on the wall activated. Gree appeared again. She was no longer smiling. "Celia," she said, "I'm disappointed." Celia went rigid. Eden stepped closer to her. Sira moved between them and the screen. "She'll recover." Gree's eyes flicked to Sira. "You misunderstand. Celia's usefulness has always depended on shame. She performs nobility only when watched by her sister." Sira stepped toward the screen. "And you perform omniscience because no one loved you without data." Gree's mouth tightened. Behind Sira, Annika murmured, "Nice." Gree's gaze dropped to Sira's hand. "The ring suits you. Take that back. You feel it, don't you? The architecture under the skin. The way the system recognizes proximity before thought. Eden House was built to study choices made under biological pressure. Then your study is bad science. It confuses pressure with truth." Gree's eyes lit. "Excellent. You'll be more interesting than Celia." Celia flinched. Sira's anger sharpened. "No," she said. "I'll be more expensive." Silas fired at the screen. It shattered. "Was that necessary?" Sira asked. "No," Silas said. "Satisfying." They kept moving. The passage opened onto a balcony, overlooking a large central chamber. Sira stopped dead. Eden House was not a single medical facility. It was a compound under glass and stone. The chamber below rose 3 stories, ringed by observation galleries, labs, corridors, sealed doors, and a central floor arranged like a courtroom crossed with a hospital theater. Screens covered one wall. Several showed empty rooms. One showed the storm outside. Another displayed a countdown. Broadcast initiation 001842. On the central floor stood Ilara Voss, alive, pale, pregnant, dressed in white, not silver now, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Her hands were free, but two guards stood near enough to remind everyone freedom had measurements. She looked up, somehow through glass, shadow, distance, and every nightmare between them. Her gaze found Sierra's balcony. Not Damon, not Celia. Sierra. Ilara lifted one hand slightly. Not a plea, a signal. Wait. Beside Ilara, strapped to a chair, was Damon Vale. Sierra's breath caught despite herself. He was conscious, barehanded, his black ring gone. Medical bands held his wrists to the chair arms. Sensors marked his temples, throat, chest. Blood had dried at his hairline. His shirt was torn open at the collar, showing old scars Sierra had no right to understand. Gree stood beside him with a tablet. Octavia Vale appeared on a screen above them, remote and elegant. Her face as composed as a judge at sentencing. Sierra had seen photographs of Octavia. They had not captured the deadness of her beauty. Damon lifted his head. His eyes found Ilara first. The change in him was immediate and devastating. The room seemed to bend around it. Even from above, Sierra saw his restraint fracture. Not into violence, into focus so absolute it was almost frightening. His body strained once against the bands, then stopped as his gaze dropped to Ilara's stomach. Lara's hand moved there. Protective. Warning. Damon went still. Sierra understood then that Celia had been right. If Gree wanted to break him, she had chosen the exact blade. Gree touched Damon's bare hand. He jerked against the restraints. Ilara stepped forward. Don't. Her voice carried through the chamber speakers. Gree smiled. There she is, the primary bride. I am not your bride. No, Gree said pleasantly. You are his. That is the point. Damon's voice came rough, low, murderous. Do not speak to her. Gree's attention returned to him. The response remains strongest under direct threat. 6 months of separation, suppressed activation, fetal uncertainty, and witness introduction. Beautiful conditions. Ilara's face stayed calm, but her hand over her stomach tightened. Octavia's voice came from the screen. Proceed. The board is assembled. Celia made a small sound beside Sierra. Sierra looked toward her. How do we stop it? Celia pointed across the chamber. Central control is opposite balcony, but the broadcast key is biometric. Whose? Celia looked at Eden. No. Sierra's stomach dropped. Celia whispered, Eden S. The child looked down at the central floor. Face unreadable. They make me press the light, Eden said. Sierra crouched in front of her. Do you know what the light does? It makes the houses watch. Sierra's throat tightened. Do you want them to watch? Eden looked at Damon, at Alara, at the screen where Octavia waited. No, then we don't press it. They'll be angry. They already are. Eden considered this. Then she held out her hand to Sira. I know another light. Sira took the child's hand. The ring burned. Below, Damon's head snapped toward the balcony. Not toward Eden, toward Sira. His eyes found the ring on her hand. Something terrible crossed his face. Not possession. Horror. He understood what the system had called her. Second match. Sira lifted her chin as if to say, later. Damon's jaw tightened. Even restrained, bleeding, and surrounded by monsters, he managed to look furious that she was in danger. Irritating man. Gree followed his gaze. Her smile returned. Ah, she said into the chamber microphone. Our witness has arrived. The countdown continued. 00:15:09. Silas moved beside Sira. We split. Annika, take Celia and the child to control. Sira with me. No, Eden said. Everyone looked at her. The child's hand tightened around Sira's. The witness opens the other light. Annika crouched. What other light? Eden pointed down. Not at central control. At the floor, beneath Damon's chair. Sira saw it then. A circular black stone embedded under the chair, carved with the same thorned crest as the rings. A ritual mark, a system port, a trigger, whatever it was. It sat beneath Damon like a grave. Eden looked at Sira. If the witness says no, the rule stops. Sira stared at her. Who told you that? My mother. The chamber seemed to tilt. Celia closed her eyes. Sira slowly turned to her sister. Celia's face had gone white. Celia, Sira said, what does she mean? The silence was answer enough, and not enough. Eden's hand remained in Sira's. My mother said, if the witness says no, fathers don't have to belong to houses. Celia was crying silently now. Sira's chest tightened. Are you Eden's mother? Celia shook her head. No. Then who? Celia looked down into the chamber. At Alara, then at Damon, then finally at Sira. I don't know whose egg they used, Celia whispered. But I carried her. The world stopped. Sira stared at her sister. Carried her. Not director. Not witness. Not only victim. Mother. The word shattered every theory and built a worse one from the pieces. Below, Gree's voice filled the chamber. Bring Miss Black to the floor. The guards near Alara moved. Damon surged against the restraints so violently the chair scraped across the stone. No, the word thundered through the speakers. Not shouted, commanded. Every person in the chamber froze for one instinctive second. Sira felt it in her bones. Monster King. Gree looked delighted. There, that is the voice Eden House was built to preserve. Damon turned his head toward the camera that would soon carry him to every Covenant house. His face was pale with pain, but his eyes were clear. Seraphina, he said, voice rough through the speakers. Do not come down. Gree smiled. She has to. Sierra looked at the countdown. 00, 13:22. Then at Eden, at Celia, at Alara, standing alone below, one hand on her unborn child, at Damon, restrained over the crest, looking at Sierra with a fury that was not about control, but fear for a woman he had known less than one night. At the ring on her finger, the witness can open what the air cannot. If the witness says no, the rule stops. Sierra understood then what Gree had done. She had mistaken Sierra's anger for a leash. The first mistake men like her always made. Sierra took one breath. Then she stepped to the balcony rail and looked down into the chamber. Grey. The woman looked up. Sierra lift. Her ringed hand. The black stone caught the light. Every screen in the chamber flickered. The countdown paused. 00, 12:58. Silence spread. Octavia leaned forward on the screen. Gree's smile faded. Sierra's voice carried down into Eden House, steady and sharp enough to cut wire. You want a witness. She looked at the child beside her, then at her sister, then at Damon Vale. Fine, I'll testify.